Happy New Year. Welcome to the 436th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I do a lot of comic book look backs, kind of like a preview theater, like from back in the old days, looking at a classic comic. I've been doing a lot of what if comics just because they're so varied, and usually it's like, every issue is a different, so it's not just Spider-Man, although there is a lot of Spider-Man, a lot of Fantastic Four. Sometimes I do off my mind topics, and lately a lot of them have been dealing with Back to the Future or just the whole concept of paradoxes and time travels and just all the things and stuff like that. I love those movies. There's different topics and so forth. And I'm also open to suggestions, whatever you want to hear about. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or four. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. All right, so it is the first podcast of 2026. What are we going to talk about? So I think we have a kind of a low-key show to ease into things. I'm wrapping up my 2-week vacation off of teaching. Although, I have had report cards to do, and report cards, the way we do them, it takes a lot. It's not just like, A, B, because we do standard based. So each class could have like 6 or so different things that I have to give grades on. And then, we tend to do comments for each student. So that takes a lot. And then not only am I doing math, boo-hoo, Tony, not only am I doing math, but I also have to do Spanish for all the students and everything like that. So it takes a long time. I've had that, and just with like holiday stuff and spending some time with family and everything. So it hasn't been. I guess there has been some time of relaxation, but now we are easing back as this podcast goes live. It is back to work, and that's going to be rough. It's going to be so rough, but you do this, you get used to it. So what do we have this year? The movie feature is going to be Marty Supreme. So that came out, I think that came out Christmas Day. So I saw it like a week later, and it's Timothée Chalamet, and it's an interesting movie. I honestly went into it. I did not know a single thing about it, except there was a scene of him running through New York City, like in a suit or like a shirt, like a dress shirt, or I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know it was an A24 movie until I went in and saw the logo on there. So you can hear about that. And I will say right now, my daughter ended up seeing it. I think it was New Year's Day. She saw it, and she liked it. She's a big Timothée fan. So she really enjoyed it. So it was nice to talk to her about that. And she, not on the podcast, but yeah. So we have that. So Marty Supreme. We also will have the season finale of Pluribus. And I'll say as one thing that happens, I kind of called it. So pat on my back. We will have one episode of Stranger Things. And just that kind of one... I'm going through these with the way I do the recaps and everything like that, I feel like one episode is enough, because when there's like multiple episodes, it just makes, and I don't know if I'm just making excuses for myself to kind of make things easier for the week, but I feel if there's multiple episodes, it just, either I have to go super condensed, which I just can't seem to do that, but I feel like if it's more than one episode per podcast episode, that just feels like it's too much. It's like it drags on. And if it's a show, because I'm assuming you don't necessarily like everything that is on the show, that you might like, maybe I don't want to hear about that, or maybe I don't want to be spoiled or whatever, and maybe you're like skipping over stuff. And that would just be annoying if it's like, oh, there's 2 episodes that I don't really want to hear about. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking things, but it just makes it easier for me to just, do 1 episode per week. So we're going to have episode 506 of Stranger Things. So there's only 8 episodes in this 5th season. And I didn't even realize, I thought all the episodes dropped like the day after. I don't remember if it was Christmas Day or the day after, but apparently they only dropped 5, 6, and 7. And then episode 8 dropped New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, one of those two. And because I saw that there was a lot of stuff about like Stranger Things in the theater, like you could see the finale. I was like, that's weird. It's been out for a week, and then it's like, is it going to be like a 5-hour plus? But then it's like, no, they only showed the final episode. And apparently, I haven't looked into it, but apparently I think I saw one report, like, I don't know when it was from, like how accurate, it was like over 1 million bookings for it. Because it's not like it's going to play everywhere. It's not going to, wait, 1 million? That can't be right. Because usually movies will play like maybe 4,000 theaters, and then they have, unless theaters had it like multiple showings, and then they're talking about that. I don't know, that can't be right. That seems like a lot, but what do I know? So we have 1 episode of Stranger Things. I debate about this also because I was planning, I did say that I was probably going to do episode 2 and 3 of Fallout Season 2. I'll be perfectly honest. So I'm a week, I think I'm just going to be a week behind. I may catch up because as soon as, like Pluribus is over this week. So I'm getting low on shows until, I don't even know what's coming out this month besides Wonder Man, which I'll talk about that later. As I watched the second episode, because, I was like trying to watch it earlier in the week, in between, like picking away at report cards, watching shows, and trying to do some drawing, because I don't even have time for that. But then as I was watching, I was like, I don't know if I want to do 2 episodes this week, because, the episodes drop on Wednesday, which is great. I love the Wednesday shows. When a show comes out on Thursday or Friday, that makes it a little harder, because I try to do my recording like Friday, Saturday, just so I can have it recorded and then, start editing it and have it ready to go Sunday afternoon. But with Fallout, with episode 202, I'm going to say right now, I don't know. I really enjoyed the first season, and I didn't watch it when it first came out. I waited until I bought the 4K discs for it, and then I kind of binged it, which I don't normally binge shows, but I watched it over maybe like 2 or 3 weekends or something like that. So it wasn't all at once. It's just it might not even been weekends, but. As I was watching the second episode, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm really, and I said this about the first episode, I don't know if I'm really enjoying it as much as the first season. And I looked at the ratings, and I did note that, or I did see that episode 202 was rated a little, and this is just on IMDb, I don't know if I said that, but it's a little lower than 201 and 203. So 203 slightly higher ratings, and there's not much to be said about there's not a lot of concrete whatever results that that you could put in the IMDb ratings. But we'll see. So I keep saying it. Maybe next week I'll do episodes 3 and 4, but we'll see. So that is it, and then comics and news. So let's just get started with the news. Speaking of IMDb, I didn't look into details because I want to avoid spoilers, but apparently, I don't know why, this is so ridiculous when people do this. Unless it's like legit, but apparently Stranger Things episode 507, which I have not seen yet. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I started watching episode 7 because my daughter, she hadn't watched it. She blew through the first half of the season, and then she started. I was like, "When are you gonna watch it? When you watch it?" It's like I had watched episodes 505 and 506, and she hadn't watched any yet. And then she ended up watching 505 and 506. So now we were caught up. And I was like, maybe you should slow down a bit. and not that she's going to spoil anything, but a little small part of me wants to watch it before she does. She's probably going to end up watching it before I do. As I record this, she may be ahead of it. So I started watching 507 just to give myself an early edge, but I'm only like maybe, because the episodes are over an hour long. So I maybe watch like 10 minutes of it or something like that. And part of me is like, I'm really getting into it, past seasons. I don't really remember much about them. And I don't know if it's a sporadic release of them. And sometimes the characters I find are a little annoying, but in an ideal world, I would just like watch all of them. Okay, I just got interrupted, so I forgot what I was saying. I believe I was talking about, was I talking about review or Stranger Things, where I don't even remember the last thing I said, but I think I was talking about Stranger Things episode 7 getting review bombed for some reason. I don't know why. I have a suspicion, but when I've seen like people reporting on that, obviously I can't read it because I don't want to get spoiled. So we'll find out next week's episode. Let's get started. So with the news, I don't think I've even started the news, have I? James Gunn. There's always James Gunn news. And this is the annoying thing. So apparently, which I guess is kind of good. I tend to miss a lot of this because I don't spend a lot of time on social media. So a lot of this is on Threads. Every time I look on Threads, it's always someone complaining about something where, they're like, I went to, whatever coffee shop and then this happened or people are just so and it's like, why do you feel the need to immediately post this? Like there was one person complaining about an Amazon delivery driver, I guess I think missed a curb, kind of drove through some of their grass around I trying to make sense of the picture, and there's a little bit of a mud, like a tire track, but apparently the driver left an Amazon bag, which you're not supposed to do. It's like, I don't know, package bag or warehouse bag or something like that. And I don't know why it would have been out there because, again, just from this post. And I kicked myself when I was like, why do I look at these? And I click, not interested. Don't show me this stuff. But people were complaining about that. And some people were saying, it's like, well, yeah, you got to understand, Amazon drivers are under a lot of stress, and I could imagine that, they have so many deliveries that there's like, basically enforced, like you have to deliver all these packages within this time or you're going to probably get in trouble. You're going to get dinged or whatever. So, it's, and then you can imagine with the holiday, I had to order like a cable for a USB, or for like a Bluetooth thing for my car so I could, listen to music, like stream music or my audiobooks through my car because I have an older car. And I was like, I need a new cord. And then I go to Amazon and I was like, oh crap, it's getting delivered. It was like Christmas Eve or New Year. I forget when it was. I was like, I could delay it, but I do want it, but I feel bad that someone's going to have to deliver that. Just, So people need to realize that with Amazon stuff that you can't like be ordering package, and then complain about little things like that. You got to be understanding. But anyways, so what am I even talking about? James Gunn, apparently people are saying like, oh, Wonder Woman's been cast. And I guess there's speculation that it's like, oh, she's going to appear in Supergirl movie. Where's the speculation coming from? Are people just making stuff up and just saying, oh, they're going to do that? Yeah, that's a Marvel formula that doesn't even really play anymore. But it's like you do something, you introduce an element to tease the next movie. There's no reason you have to do that here. And maybe they're looking at, well, in Superman, they tease Supergirl. They're kind of doing that here, but it's not like they're going to necessarily, I don't know. So basically James Gunn's like, nope. Wonder Woman's not cast. There's no, they're going to do a movie. The way he's worded before, they don't do anything until there's a script ready. Once they have the script, and then they start looking at things. And I can appreciate that, respect that, but at the same time, you would think that does kind of slow things down a bit. But you can't start casting and saying, hey, do you want to play Wonder Woman? We don't have a script yet. Because someone might be like, yeah, I'd love to, and then they look at the script, they're like, this script is garbage. What did I sign up for? So how can you get commitment if there's no script? So I get that. But with the speculation stuff, again, I feel like I could be wrong. All this stuff, like people with their insiders and stuff like that, I don't know if people are actually having any idea, because James Gunn, a lot of times, he's like, there's only 3 people that would know about this, because they don't necessarily tell. And I hate to say it, but I was like, maybe you can't even trust your assistant. There's one thing if you have like a long relationship or whatever, but if there are apparently so many leaks out there, you can't trust anyone. But people are constantly speculating. And again, I don't know if there are actual people sharing information. I can't understand why they would do that, or if people are just making stuff up and they're like, there's going to be a Wonder Woman movie. Let's say this. Oh, someone told me that she might appear in Supergirl. I mean, it's a reasonable guess or assumption, but you can't say that that's going to happen if you don't have an actual shred of evidence. And then people say, well, my source said I can't say, I can't reveal anything, but that's what I've been told. It's like, have you really been told that? I don't know. It just seems weird. And despite me working for a decent size website, I would say, Comic Vine had its build, and then, GameSpot had its audiences, but GameSpot was in the early days of entertainment. I never had anyone that would anonymously leak, information. I had people that would give me information, like confidentially, and, I've talked about this in the past. I couldn't report on it, because if I reported on it, then the person would get in trouble, and then I wouldn't get that information anymore. So it was more like a friendly gesture type of thing, which is just kind of weird. It's like, what you're being very, and maybe it's just a way, because I don't want to mention any names, but I remember at one point I got some like huge information. A writer, I'll just say it was I shouldn't say anything, but someone's like, hey, this is the real meaning of what is going on in this book. And they're like, I want to tell you this, but you can't tell anyone, type of thing. So it's like, is this a test for me? And whether, if it was, I passed the test, and it did lead to other things, I think, because they knew that they could trust me. And so I got like other early, information, and it's nice in a way, because it did help me out. I mean, what I'm trying to think, what did they gain from this? Maybe I don't even know if I should be dwelling on this. They used me as a soundboard, and I could say, because at one point I did say, when I was told something, I was like, ooh, that is really cool. You got to be really careful, because some people could flip out with that. And how I benefit, so they might get that, like, this is my honest opinion, because of course I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you if this is a good idea or if this is crazy. But then for me, it just helped, because then when it happened, I could be prepared to write about it. It's like I kind of had a heads up. I don't know, but I never would have had a leak, like, oh, this is going to happen. This person is going to be in this, or I just don't understand. You're taking big risks, and I mean, unless it's someone high up, like someone like James Gunn or whoever, or one of the actors or something like that, is it someone like some assistant or lighting technician? It's like, who's going to risk their job to share this? This has been such a long segment, right? So, no Wonder Woman cast yet, no Wonder Woman and Supergirl. One thing I did see a report that apparently Supergirl is going to have a smaller budget. And I mean, the trailer, it doesn't look like they're like being cheap on it, but maybe they'll have less locations or whatever. You don't need to have these big grand whatever things. And if it's like out in space or in a whatever, it might be easier to do shots and then the after effects or whatever versus like Superman and being in the city and then having to shoot in a city and CG in the city and do all that stuff. But they're saying by it having a smaller budget, that means it will require less box office money to be profitable. So that could be a good thing. That's something to be learned, because you see some of these movies like $200 million budget, and it's like how does it, sometimes I'll see like smaller productions like $130 million budget. I was like, how is this? There's like nothing. What did they? Why did they need to spend that much money on this? It's like really like a straightforward production, it seems like. So I don't know, but we shall see. And I find everything is like rumor. Like another rumor is like, Peggy Carter might have her biggest role yet in Avengers Doomsday. But I'm thinking it's like Captain America: First Avenger. She had a pretty big role in there. So the rumor is that she's going to have an even bigger role. For what we can assume from the teaser, I'm assuming you've seen it by now because it was 3 weeks ago. We know that we're going to see Steve Rogers, and we know Steve Rogers, spoiler, has a kid. So we're probably going to see some Peggy Carter. Are we going to see any Captain Carter? Is that even a possibility? And what's going on? Because the thing is, what people need to take into consideration, that Steve Rogers, we don't know if that's 616 Steve Rogers or if that's some alternate Steve Rogers. I am assuming, I do not know, I am assuming that the Robert Downey Jr., the Tony Stark, Dr. Doom, whoever he's going to be, because I don't think they've really said, I'm assuming that is not 616 Tony Stark. That is going to be some alternate, because we got the whole multiverse possibility. So if we have this alternate Tony Stark, who's to say that this isn't an alternate Steve Rogers? Because it doesn't make sense that Steve Rogers would be around, because he's not. And some people are saying like, we're going to get the evil Captain Hydra Steve Rogers. That could be maybe like if Tony Stark is evil, maybe it's like Earth 3 in DC, where maybe everyone's flipped. All the heroes are actually villains and vice versa. So I don't know what that means. Speaking of trailers, so we did have the second trailer. I think did I talk about the second trailer? Second trailer has been officially released. So maybe that was it. So we see it's basically Thor talking, and it's more serious. I saw one annoying post where it's like, Thor directed by Taika Waititi, and it's like him jumping up, like doing the splits or whatever like that. And Thor directed by the Russo brothers, and he's like, kneeling in front of a tomb or something, or like a grave site, not a tomb. But it's like, come on, man. Yeah, so it's about Thor and the fact, being a father and stuff like that, which I don't know if some people are not happy about that character. But then we did get the third teaser, and I will admit, I watched a leak version. I saw it might have been on Threads or Twitter, one of the two. And spoiler, it's about the X-Men. We see. So this is where it's got to be multiverse stuff, because we have spoiler. If you haven't seen it, and I apologize if you're trying to avoid it all, but we have like Professor X Magneto. There's a lot of Professor X talk, and then the thing that everyone is talking about, which if you've avoided this, congrats, but sorry, you're going to hear about it now. We see Cyclops, and not only do we see Cyclops, we see Cyclops. It's not a super clear shot because it's like him like just blasting something, but it appears he's wearing like classic Cyclops, like blue and gold or whatever, blue and yellow outfit, which is really cool. What does this mean? I have no idea. And so is Doomsday just like obliterating all extra timelines, and I don't even know what's happening, but it looks cool. As I record this, no word on what's in the next teaser, because I think there's supposed to be, was there supposed to be 4? At first they're like, oh, the 4th one's going to be like a long actual like official teaser, and then they're like, nope, that's not the case. And some people originally, I think they said the 3rd teaser was going to be Robert Downey Jr.'s teaser, so maybe that'll be the next one. I would love, I think it would be hilarious if the last teaser was Deadpool. But we'll have, who knows? We'll see. And then I saw something like, oh, rumored release date of official Doomsday. It's like, okay, I'm not going to give you a click for a suspected release date, whether it's an educated guess or a strong guess or whatever, made up guess. I don't know. And what about Zack Snyder? Zack Snyder, I think there's like an early look at some movie. I don't even know what movie he's doing, but there's something coming out. But apparently, and I've not seen it, and I refuse to click on any articles that post about it. But apparently, he is still posting Batman v Superman or whatever. He's still posting pictures. Because he posted one on Ray Fisher, right? That's his name, Cyborg. And man, I don't even want to. That guy, he was so unhappy. I feel bad. I don't know what the deal was and who was right and who was not, but that was just. I don't even want to go back to that time. And then there was a picture on what's his name, Michael Shannon, Zod. So I'm just, Zack Snyder, it's like, why are you posting these? And yeah, I get that there's maybe some people that care to see these, but it's like, man, it's so long ago. And I feel, I could be wrong, I feel like he's just doing it to feed, to stoke the fire, to get these people riled up, to keep them like, oh, why is he doing this? Release the Snyder, bring back the Snyder, restore the Snyder Cut, whatever they're saying now. And it's just like, I just can't see it being possible. One, time is moving on. Everyone is getting older. I mean, unless they're going to go like post-apocalyptic, whatever future, and everyone's like older, which some characters like Superman or Wonder Woman, they shouldn't be aging. So are you going to CG them and keep them, the way they looked because when those movies come out, like 2016, Wonder Woman was probably 2017. And then we had Wonder Woman 88. So you have to, and I'm sure Gal Gadot still looks great. Right? But you can't, and why would they want to do this? I don't know. It's just like, let it go. We've moved on. Everyone should just move on. And I guess whatever, we always have these, what do you call them? Or these callbacks, we got Malcolm in the Middle, that's coming back. Unfortunately, I was never a Malcolm in the Middle fan, and it's just because I didn't watch it. It's not that I was against the show, but it was a sitcom, and I think it was like a Sunday night sitcom, and it didn't have it in my time to watch it. I've seen numerous clips over the year, and it looks hilarious. I've always like, man, I should watch that show sometime. I just haven't had a time. Maybe I should, but I'm excited for that. But same thing, like, King of the Hill. I love the fact that they brought that back and they've moved the show, 10 years or plus, whatever, maybe it's 10 years. And, because like Bobby is an adult now. I was never like the biggest King of the Hill fan. I've watched numerous episodes. I haven't seen all of them, but I've been slowly watching the new season, the latest season, whatever. But that's the thing. It's been out for how long now, and I still haven't watched it all. I probably watched maybe over half, but it might be like I got a little downtime. I'm going to watch something for fun that is not podcast related. So I like when they do these calls, and I feel like there's something else. I was like, they should do. a revival. Is that what I'm thinking of? I'm trying to think of the word. There's something else that I feel like they could bring back, but who knows if they ever will. Let's see, what else do we have? There was a trailer for Wonder Man. So Wonder Man comes out, I think all episodes drop January 27th. I'm not happy about that. I will not be talking about all episodes at once. I might possibly do the first two, because apparently the first episode is really short, but we'll see about that. And watching this latest trailer, it definitely has an interesting vibe to it. You know, I kind of appreciate that. It doesn't feel like a normal thing, and that's good. My one concern is this might not be current. This might have taken place a few years back, which is like, how come we haven't heard anything since or whatever? What's interesting about this is, you know, the whole idea is there was a Wonder Man show, movie, or whatever. But this director, he became like an Oscar-winning director after that. He decides he wants to do a revival. He wants to do a reboot. Even though, and then there's like mention of superhero fatigue. You know, he wants to try to overcome that or something. So they're rebooting Wonder Man, because you do see like old movie footage or like a poster, and the original Wonder Man that they show here was white, and I'm assuming it was just an actor. So then they're casting, and I forget the actor's name who's playing Wonder Man, because I suck at names, but he is clearly not white. And one of the interesting things, I was like, what I wasn't sure about, since, you know, I try not to dig and sift out every piece of, you know, information out there, but I was like, does he have any powers or not? Because if he's an actor that's playing this character, you know, what's the deal? And there's one point where he's signing in for an audition or something like that. And the security person, like, can you sign this to confirm that you do not have any superpowers? Because I guess they don't want to cast someone with superpowers. I don't know if there's a safety issue. I mean, it could be like an insurance thing. And he signs it, but we see hints that he does have superpowers. I guess the question is, can he control them? Is it an emotional thing? Because there's one point where he like smashes a table. And then there's some dude from the damage control office, and he's like, Simon Williams is an extraordinary threat or something like that. So we'll have to see what all that means. So I'm curious. I hate that they're dropping all episodes at once. I just I don't appreciate that. And I still say, I get that you want to get people excited or whatever, but I still feel, I will say this every single time apparently, that if you drop all episodes at once, people won't talk about it after like a week or so. So, you know, we still have a lot of people talking about Stranger Things, because they broke it down into basically three drops. They dropped the first 4 episodes, then they dropped 3 episodes, and then they dropped the last episode. So people are like, right now, from last week, people are still talking about Stranger Things because the final episode just dropped. So they spread it out over that. But even when the first 4 episodes dropped, it was only like the first week you saw article. And then the weeks after that, there wasn't really a whole lot. There might have been a little speculation or stuff like oh, it's going to show in the theater or whatever like that. But there wasn't a lot of talk about things. And the same thing's going to happen. So people might talk about Wonder Man when it first comes out, but then no one's going to talk about it after that, because all that information is out there, and it gets to be the idea of, and you know, this is my struggle. It's like, should I talk about something that's been out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, because the diehard people are going to watch it? I don't think everyone has time to binge everything when there's so many different shows. So we'll find out how that goes. Finn Wolfhard, was talking about It, Welcome to Derry. And so spoilers, I'll say, you know, there's the Richie connection. And he said that he knew about that years ago. It's almost like he was bragging, but apparently the showrunners, whatever, came up to him and they're like, "You're involved," but that's all they said about it. And what exactly does that mean? Does that mean obviously he can't reprise his character? Is he going to play like an older sibling or father of his character from? Because he was in It. I almost forgot that he was in It Part 1. I need to watch those again. He hasn't necessarily confirmed that he's doing anything else, and HBO hasn't even officially announced or greenlit a second season. I mean, I imagine they've talked about that they have like 3 seasons mapped out, but it's not official. I don't know. I mean, now that Stranger Things over, Finn Wolfhard, I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting another gig, but I don't know what. Yeah. So we'll see. That would be cool. And the last bit of news, I believe this has been way longer than I thought was going to happen. James Cameron, he was complaining about something again. I don't remember what. Man, he's so angry. It seems like, but he said that if Avatar 4 and 5 don't get made, he would like to do Avatar novels. The problem is, he said people don't read anymore. It's like, okay, where are you getting this information from? Did he actually look up numbers, like how many books are being, bought and sold? But I would question that. It's like, if you're looking at your data of how many people are buying books, does that include like digital, like Kindle? Because at least with comics, it seemed like, I don't know if they must have changed things, but in the early days of digital comics, those numbers were not reported. So whenever we looked at like, oh, this comics, sold 200,000 copies, but that's only physical copies and, print copies. And that has nothing to do with digital. How many people are reading digitally? And I would be like, that number should be revealed, because creators should be getting paid, compensated based off of those sales. Because that's still money that's being made off of that content, that piece of work. Yeah, I don't know if those numbers, how readily available they are. Obviously, there has to be a way to note it. Like, if back in the Comixology days, whatever, I'm sure they could tell, oh, we had 57,000 people that bought this, that downloaded this issue, paid for it. There has to be a way to count that, to register that. So the same thing with Kindle. There's got to be a way, although with Kindle, sometimes, I don't know how this factors into it, but and I don't really know a whole lot about this, but there's always like the Kindle Unlimited, because I feel like with comics, it's like I read a Francis Manapul comic, like one of his things. I think was it Francis Manapul and Scott Snyder? Is like someone like on a motorcycle. I never read like the second issue, but I read it because I was a Prime member, so I was able to read it through like Kindle Unlimited or something like that. So I didn't actually buy the comic, but I was able to read it through there. And I don't know if the entire series was available, if it was just the first, if they just did some but something like that. So with Kindle, I know I get emails like, oh, select your free book of the month or something like that, which I don't read on Kindle because I do audiobooks. So I don't know if they're doing any sort of like free books or free, then that doesn't count towards the sales. Like how does the writer, the creator get compensated for that? And then adding to the books, what about audiobooks? Do audiobooks count towards the sales of physical books? Because that is still money that comes in, and in some cases it's more money because audiobooks tend to be more expensive because they're longer. There's whatever, it's a piece of content. But then when you have stuff like Audible, so I pay, I think I'm down to like $1 a month. I got booted out of my, which I should have complained about this. I used to pay like $20 or $21 a month, and I got 2 book credits. Now I think I'm probably getting more ripped off. I think I might be paying $14 and getting one credit. Where does that $14? Because like a lot of times, like a Stephen King book, they're usually like $40 or maybe not. I could be thinking they're 40 hours long. I don't know. But when you're using these credits, how much of that goes to the actual creator? Because I'm sure Audible is taking some percentage of that because otherwise they don't have a system, and they need to make profit off of this. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for them to have it. But if they're taking a piece of that, and if you're using a credit and you're paying less than like the retail price for the digital, then that's affecting it. So anyways, James Cameron says no one is reading, but where are you getting that information from? Because there's so many different ways to consume books. And then what about people who go to the library and read books? A library may buy 2 copies of a book, and then you could have 20 people in a year, or I don't know how many that might read, or maybe more, I don't know. And then the other thing is like, how would an Avatar book be? Because to me, Avatar is all about the movies and the effects. And how would you have that in a book? You have to describe everything. It's like, and you're gonna have like 5 pages describing a scene, which that's not gonna be exciting. So I don't know. But hopefully the rest of this show is gonna be exciting, but that is the news for the week. All right, so somehow that was extended news, which will make up for the lack of comic books. There was apparently, I think Marvel is like the only one that really had comics out this week. And I kind of appreciate that on some level, not just for myself, because it made things a little easier. And I was like, I was like early in the week, because usually it's like moments before I start recording, I'm still trying to read everything, and I don't get to read everything. But I do appreciate it for the sake of the comic stores. Now, I would assume comic stores, they want to have a light week. It's the last week of the year. Maybe they're like, oh man, there's no books out. We're not going to have any business. But I'm hoping it's more of, okay, we can close early, or it's okay, and even the sorting of the comics. I've seen that at a couple stores when they're, they get the shipments in. You have to organize everything because you have to figure out, okay, how many, what's on the pull list. And, okay, I need to take out this many issues of Superman and then sort those. I need to take out this many issues of Spider-Man and so forth. And then the rest, you have to put them on the shelves. And then you have to reorganize the shelves. I mean, depending on how you have it. Now, the last comic store I went to, which no longer is in business, but they would have like their new comics. And I think what they would do is just put the new issues on top, which is great. So you don't have to like reshuffle the whole thing. You just have, okay, here's all the Amazing Spider-Mans, and oh, you missed the last issue. Just look, hopefully there's still a copy, underneath the new issues or whatever. But then you have, a lot of times you have the little placards that will say new comic, new issue, whatever. I'm hoping that comic stores did enough business, but also had time to just relax and have time with family. So at Image, there's a few things that came out, not very much, nothing that I read. So I didn't read anything at Image. It does not appear to Dynamite or Image. I mean, it doesn't appear to Dynamite or Dark Horse or Boom or anyone else put out any comics, which, again, good for them. DC did not have any comics. That seems crazy. Although last week they had a lot of books. So maybe DC is like, okay, it's Christmas week, even though not everyone celebrates Christmas, but a lot of people do. They're like, we're going to put out all these books, and so they'll be there before the end of the year. So either pick up your books this week or next week. You go to your comic store, you can get our books. But this week, the last week of the year, DC apparently did not have any books that came out. Now, my problem is I don't know where to get like all the source of comics. What I do now is I look on Amazon, like on the Kindle shop or whatever, where you can go by publisher and see that. They don't have everyone on there, but you can. They have pretty much most of the publishers, and it doesn't appear that DC had anything. Marvel had of some books. So that's all there is really for me to talk about this week is a few Marvels. So let us see. We had a Marvel Zombies 4. And this series is, I say each issue is so bizarre the way it started out. And they kind of comment on that just because we have Deadpool in this world. And he makes a comment about how weird the timeline is. Because the whole thing started off, Spider-Man was just new to being Spider-Man. He was still young. And then, he runs into Jessica Jones when she's still Jewel. And then they run into Jean Grey, and Jean Grey ends up getting killed right away before there's that whole X-Men thing happens. And then I think it was like the second issue, they get pulled into like Secret Wars. And it's just like just huge jump. And then I forget what happened last issue. I don't know if last issue like Infinity Gauntlet stuff. But then now in issue 4, they're finally back on Earth. And because I think they had to like fly to Earth like in a ship and not just get teleported back from the Beyonder. And it's like Civil War is going on. It's Civil War between zombies. Because, you see on the cover, you see zombie Iron Man versus zombie Captain America. So you got these two different factions of zombies fighting, and then there's a few remaining humans, and it's just it's weird, but it's interesting. A lot of the past Marvel zombie stuff, because Marvel Zombies was this huge craze, and the original one was so unique, but then it got to be too much, and it kind of lost that spark or whatever it had. So I've been enjoying this, even though it's so bizarre. We have, what is the name of this book? The World to Come? Is that the name of it? This Black Panther book, the Marvel Knights. I haven't read this. I don't even know. What issue is this? This is issue 5. So where we have this son of Black Panther, or not even, I don't even know if he's the son. He's a white dude, white Black Panther, and people are in an uproar, and yeah. So I don't know what's going on there. Then there's Predator Kills the Marvel Universe, issue 5. I've been kind of reading this. I think I've missed some issues, but I was like, well, I should read this issue because I think it's the last one. And, it was a continuation from the past Marvel, at least, Spider-Man versus Predator, was a factor here, because then we had Kraven, who joined up with the Predators and basically betrayed humanity. So there's the few remaining heroes. So many heroes have been killed. They're trying to fight all the Predators. I think I might have missed the specifics of it, but I know that there's like a Predator X, basically. They take a Predator, and it appears as like the same Professor Cornelius, whatever that dude was. They kind of Weapon X a Predator. They got the headset on him, and they're able to kind of use him for good. Now, is he being completely controlled, or is he brainwashed, or does he have any, I don't know. I can't really speak on that, but they have a Predator on their side. And the few remaining heroes you have to fight Kraven and the other Predators. And one thing I will just say is you see here on the cover, you have an Invisible Woman, and I love when she is utilized like fully, and you can just see like what a badass that she is. So will there be more? They could. I don't know if they should. I don't know if they will, but there's potential for more Predator and Marvel if they really wanted to. One thing I saw, I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was at the end of this issue, but apparently there's going to be a Marvel meets Planet of the Apes. And I'm actually I'm curious about that. So we'll see how that goes. We have the Punisher number 4. So this is the Benjamin Percy Punisher. This is like main 616 current continuity Punisher. Somehow Kingpin implanted a device into the Punisher's brain and is able to control him. So he's using him. And I really didn't like that, because I was like, man, you can't do that, because it's not fair. It's not fair to Punisher. And where I'm a little confused, because Punish or Kingpin recently, he somehow like found religion, or like one of the entities, something happened to him in an issue of Daredevil, and he just like completely turned around. And he was like gonna renounce the evils, whatever his sins and stuff like that. But like here, it's like he's back to normal, and I don't know. I'm trying to remember if we saw some explanation in Daredevil where he got over it or whatever was affecting him. So here he's like back to normal, and he's like using the Punisher to do his evil deeds, whatever, wipe out whoever he wants to, and stuff like that. But Punisher is trying to fight it. Kingpin also has like microchip like held captive and all hacked up or whatever, and trying to get him to control Punisher and stuff like that. But Punisher is trying. He stops a couple paramedics, and he's basically, he has a bomb. He's like, okay, you are going to take out, there's a device in my brain, my back of my neck, whatever. He's like, you're going to take it out now, or I'm going to blow you up. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Sorcerer Supreme, #1. So I remember when they announced, like, oh, there's a new Sorcerer Supreme. I thought it was going to be Clea, because, one, she's married to Doctor Strange, and I think she's like the dark evil Sorcerer Supreme or whatever, but apparently she's not going to be the Sorcerer Supreme. And I don't remember if we saw it at the end of all the Doom stuff, but you can see on the cover it's Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch is supposed to be the new Sorcerer Supreme. The problem is, not everyone thinks she should have that title. Basically, what happened is Doctor Doom kind of, in his sacrifice, he left a couple of, like, basically the Cloak and Eye of Agamotto. Wanda, Scarlet Witch, was there to kind of save them. So she was able to take them, and as people are questioning her being the sorcerer, they're like, you haven't been chosen, you haven't been appointed. The Vishanti or whoever, they're saying, like, this is unacceptable, you can't do this. And she's like, they chose me, these vestments or whatever they call them, like they chose me, and they're like, you're not stable and this and that, whatever, and you're more about witchcraft. And so there's a lot of debate from the higher ups if she should have the power or not. She's also has like the dark hold inside her that she can access like some of the dark powers, but she's got to be careful with that. That all that kind of makes things interesting, because she's always been kind of like a powder keg, and you got to be careful. So we'll see where this is going to go. One of the things that's annoying is so this is continuing from the previous Steve Orlando Scarlet Witch books. We have the Darcy character, and I just find her kind of annoying. I mean, at one point she's like, oh, she's now the Sorcerer Supreme, and she's still late or whatever. It's like Dormammu's like attacking Midtown or whatever, and she's fighting that, and it's just, I don't know, just the whole attitude sometimes from characters is just, it's supposed to be cute or funny. I just find it like just extremely annoying or whatever. So we'll see where this is going to go. Wanda, she kind of wants to have a council to sort of keep her in check. So she's appointed, some people and some interesting choices. So we'll see how this goes. And I don't know. Yeah, what can you do with this a series like this? And we'll find out, I guess, to see. But I am a Scarlet Witch fan, so I do like. I feel like, even though she has had her series recently, I feel like she's not getting the credit or recognition that she should have, because she's a long running character and she's so powerful. She's been abused by writers. So I think she deserves to have some time in the spotlight. Then there's Star Wars Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red. Issue 4. So I'm not consistently reading this, And my caution with having like a Boba Fett series is you got to be careful. Otherwise, the stories are just going to become redundant. It's like, oh, Boba Fett's going to take a bounty. He's going to go find him, and then that's it. It's like, okay, he's always gonna meet, find his target or whatever. It's not really going to be that exciting. It's like, oh, there's some big threats. He's going to overcome them, obviously. But here, so when I looked at this, I saw, Alyssa Wong's writing it. It's like, okay, that's cool. I really want to see what she's going to do with Boba Fett, because I'm going to be totally honest. I love the fact that they have a woman writing Boba Fett. That they're giving, instead of like oh, Boba Fett's like this macho guy. All of the male Star Wars fans, whatever. You can't have a woman work on it. I'm so supportive of it, and maybe I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to bring that fact to attention or whatever. I can't talk right now, but I think that's great. I love that. And when you read this, it is a straight up legit Boba Fett story. So that's great. The other thing I saw, when I saw Alyssa Wong, I was like, that's cool, because I haven't read everything she's done, but I've liked, and I've enjoyed what I've read from her. And then the art is Sarah Pichelli. I was like, oh, that's cool as well, because I'm like, what has Sarah Pichelli been doing? Because I feel I'm just reading. She was doing something, I think, and I wasn't reading it. Some other publisher, I don't remember. But I was like, I would love to see some Sarah Pichelli Star Wars art, because we have them working on this. And what I legit want to know, like what this process, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic or facetious or anything, but then we have Rachel Rosenberg doing the color, and she's an amazing colorist as well. And I know her name because she's done a lot of stuff with like Todd Knock. Like she's colored. They've worked together a lot, and he has just huge praise from her. Everything like that. So she's amazing. But when you have this book, it's like, okay, this is black, white, and red, and I feel like too many people are going to dismiss it. It's like, oh, all you got to do is add red. It's like, no, it's not. So I'm really curious how you approach a book like this, because it is not just a matter of, okay, you need to add some red in certain scenes. And you're not just adding red, you're adding different shades of red. And you're not just adding red, but you're also having to figure out where are you going to put the black and like the gray. Because, there's different shading involved for different things. So, like, it starts off like in an Empire, you see, like, there's an officer, officer is wearing gray. So he has like a gray outfit, even though it's technically a light black. And then, they using reds for the lights and so forth. And then, you have, when you see like the villain, the background is kind of lit up red, and the villain's wearing like a mask, and there's like red in the mask. So it's a fascinating thing, and I legit want to know. I would love to, if I actually did interviews in that, but I would like to question the process. So it's like, what is the mindset, or like what directions are given? Like when Rachel gets these pages, it's like, okay, here is a Boba Fett Star Wars story. It's black, white, and red. Go to it. Do they like inform her, okay, so this part you're going to do whatever red, you're going to put red here, you're going to do more black here, this is shadow. Because when they're getting the, I'm assuming, it's possible, like and when you see the bad guy in this issue, it's like a full page spread, and you see the figure, but you also see someone standing in a doorway. You kind of see like their leg, their thigh, and their hand, and like the foreground. That's all in black. It's all in shadow. So sometimes if you ever see like pencil pages, you'll see they just put X, 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 X. They just like, and they kind of like say, basically indicate to the colorist, whoever, or the inker, this is all going to be in shadow, and this is our focus. Because the artists, they have some say, which this is how I'm drawing this panel, so this is how it should be emphasized or enhanced, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm really curious. I really would like to know, even like with the character design, when you look at it, it's like, okay, who is it? All the colorists? Is it all Rachel deciding what gets black, what gets gray, and so forth? because I doubt that there's an editor saying, oh, okay, this panel do this panel do that, because that's going to take a long time. And is it just that you trust the expertise of the colorist, that they're going to know how to make each panel work to make it really pop? So it's just, and I don't know if people really think about that, consider that when you read these books. You're probably, okay, cool, and you just like read, and maybe, do you actually stop and look at that? I don't know. But I was just really fascinated with that, and just marveling in how, it's you have less tools to work with, but you have to use them properly to just, really make it something. So basically what happens here is an Imperial cadet is killed by someone, and, I don't want to give specifics away. There is a connection to someone, but the Empire is basically like, oh, they were killed, or a failure because they didn't, survive, type of thing. So they don't want to do anything about it. But then the victim's family has some power, so they hire Boba Fett. They're like, we want you to find out, who did this. Bring that person in. We'll give you more if you bring him in alive, type of thing. So then, as Boba Fett is seeking out answers, and it's a kind of it's kind of a tricky environment with the different levels of people or whatever. But then there's someone that's just like targeting him. They're like, oh, you're Boba Fett. It's like, I would love to take you out and mount your head on my wall, type of thing. And as I'm saying this, it's like, okay, who are you? You're some other bounty hunter that we've never heard of, and you think you have what it takes to take on Boba Fett, yet you've made no name for yourself in any of the other, when it comes down to it, Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back, he picked the top of the line bounty hunters who were around. I mean, maybe only the ones that were available. But when you see those core like Bosk and Zuckuss and Forlom and even Dengar, it's like IG-88, they all had to be the top bounty hunters, because he's not going to bring in like some nobody. So I feel like if you weren't there, then you must not be the cream of the crop or whatever. So we have this other character. And then Boba Fett is still trying to track down the actual. So it was a good story, but so there's my long talk about that. The Undead Iron Fist. I don't know if this is the last. I think this is the last issue. Issue 4. Yeah, and one, I've said this when I read the first issue, because I haven't loved this series, and I don't like, when the heck, I asked this before, and I haven't tried to look it up. When and how did Danny Rand die, and why would you kill him? It's like that. Don't kill comic book characters. Don't kill main superheroes. There's no point, because if you're just going to bring them back, it diminishes the value of it. It just seems silly. Like, people shouldn't be dying and come back to life. So just don't kill him. And so he's back. He's limited with like how much power, whatever he has. And I don't really like that aspect. It just seems weird. So yeah, he's fighting some demon thing, and it apparently had possessed Luke Cage. So they're like fighting and stuff like that. But it just, I don't know, because what I liked about Danny Rand is he kind of had a little bit of a carefree attitude, but he was also at the same time very disciplined to learn all the different styles, fighting styles, and everything like that. So what we have here, it just hasn't been to my liking. But then coming in 2026 at the end, Deadly Hands of Kunlun, and we see 3 characters. I don't care for these character designs. They just, I don't know if it's the designs and the colors, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on here? Like, one masked person has got this big metal arm. So one, it's like, okay, how do you even move that arm? And it's like big, huge it's almost like some big head or something on his shoulder, just so gaudy and I don't know. And then is that a kid in the front with a mask? Maybe I don't know what's going on. So that's just upsetting because I want Luke Cage and Power Man, even though that wouldn't make sense today. Okay, then we have Ultimate Endgame. When I read this, the opening page, I was like, ooh, this art style, that's a choice. It's, again, I can't speak on, I could never draw a comic book. But when you look at the first page, you see the maker, and yeah, he's Reed Richards, but his head, it's like, what is going on with his head and his face, the way it's like stretched? And is he purposely doing that, or is it just stylistic, whatever, that the artist chose? But then there's also the colors. The colors kind of made me think of like the 80s when, I don't know what, there's like a change in the process of coloring, and I don't know if it was more of a digital thing or whatever, but a lot of times when you look at, especially like on the Marvel app, a lot of comics that have been put up, they've been recolored, and they've kind of lost something. It's too much. And you look at the background here, there's like, it's supposed to, I guess it's a planet, but there's like a lot of pink in the background, because like in the first shot you can see it's like space, it looks like, and then there's a big, it's like, is that the moon? And then on the next page there's just like a lot of pink background. It's like, that's just a lot. So I don't know. And basically what we have here, we have heroes getting ready for the final fight, and whatever. We see like Spider-Man and the Ultimates and everything like that, and then they start their fight, and it's hard for me to get into because I don't really care about all these other characters. I can appreciate things are coming to a head, but and then when we see like, okay, the makers, he's almost here, and then okay, and then we have, I don't even want to hint or spoil anything, but I was like, okay, all right, we'll see what's going to happen next. Then we have the Ultimates number 19, and what was interesting about this is, this kind of goes alongside Ultimate Endgame. Like, I don't know, I think it doesn't matter which one you read first, because it's just like they're kind of parallel. Because like, well, one thing goes down like in Ultimate Endgame, and then you see like kind of another angle, the other group of the Ultimates in this issue, where they're like, oh, that just happened. So they're dealing with that. But then we also get a lot on the background of Janet Van Dyne, Janet and Hank, because Janet's made certain choices, and it's not a spoiler, but she's actually been working with for evil Nick Fury, and and then we get this last page. It's I guess it's supposed to be kind of like a shocker, and when it happened, I'm just like, okay, it's supposed to be big, shocking cliffhanger. I was like, all right, what's next? So. Yeah, I did find it shocking, but I'm just not heavily invested in it. And part of it is like, I don't know if they're really ending these Ultimate comics. So for me, it's like, well, if they're all going to end, then why should I care? Because it doesn't matter. Why do I want to get invested in these characters if it's all going to end? And it's not just like, oh, it's a miniseries or something. No, you're basically killing the line. You're saying that's all we're going to do. Part of me wants to believe that's not the case, that they are still going to find a way to continue after all this stuff against the Maker, takes place. We'll see. Then the last book, this is it, X-Men: Age of Revelation finale. So I was like, all right, if this is the last issue, because it says it ends here, so I'm like, yes. So I have to read this, and thankfully, they got like the opening page has a cast, so you can see who all these characters are. And there's some of them I was like, I have no idea who these characters are, but basically you see they're going up against evil Doug Ramsey. He is Revelation, and he's been doing all this. So we're seeing what's going to happen here, and it's kind of like I suspected, but they do add a twist to it. Because the whole concept here, Doug Ramsey does some evil stuff, and then they're going to have to revert it. If this is happening in the future, and if you brought Cyclops, Scott Summers, if you brought Cyclops and Beast into the future, all they have to do is go back, return them to their original bodies or whatever. It just got interrupted again. So I should make a note, but there's times where I have to oh no, I had to stop and then talk to someone or whatever. And so I believe what I was saying. It's just a matter of returning Cyclops and Beast to their present bodies. I feel like I was saying something else. And then they can say, okay, we need to stop this. We need to make sure this doesn't happen. But even so, it's like, what do you do? Because you have to stop Doug Ramsey from unleashing all this stuff. And I feel like where it kind of, before it flipped, Doug was at the door, ready to go. And then that's when Cyclops found himself in the future. and it's okay, all this stuff that happened now and all these issues, they don't matter anymore, because if we're going to go back to the present, it's a matter of trying to stop all that. Now, what they could do is kind of try to pick up on some pieces, but they're not going to do that, because even like this whole Spider-Man, I don't even know what it was about because I only read the first issue, but he kind of went through some changes and everything. So you're not going to do any of that, and killing Emma Frost, and it's oh no, she's not that, she's stuck in diamond form, and you're not going to have all this stuff happen. So it's just, I really honestly hope that people that were reading this enjoyed the stories, that they looked at these and they're this is, comics are supposed to be a form of entertainment. So I really hope that seeing all these different versions amounted to something for them. For me, because the majority of what I'm reading, it's like I'm reading it for quote unquote work. So when I'm looking at this and then I'm well, none of this is going to quote unquote matter, there are no repercussions because we're moving beyond it, then it's why am I going to spend this time reading that when it's going to be swept under the rug, or it's just going to be forgotten? No one's going to really reference this. Just the stuff with even Age of Apocalypse, which keeps coming back every once in a while, and there were a couple remnants like Dark Beast and stupid Sugar Man. I can't stand him. No one really talks about it. It's oh yeah, in Age of Apocalypse, Wolverine lost a hand, and you don't really reference that. That stuff happened, but it was an alternate reality. So I find it hard to believe, oh, there's going to be Cloak or Dagger, whatever it was called. They're not going to reference any of that stuff that happened. So I just hope people enjoyed it as entertainment. I just didn't. It kind of annoyed me. So we have these final battles happening, and it's how can we stop evil Revelation, evil Doug, and stuff like that. But there is a twist as they're getting sent back where I don't even know if I should mention. Well, okay, so I will mention this because this is the only major thing, and I won't get into specifics of it, but when they go back, it turns out that it wasn't Cyclops and Hank that were switched, because when Cyclops goes back, he's we gotta stop this, whatever, and he's talking about Beast. They're Beast, he's been right here watching over you. It's you haven't gone anywhere. They're you came back and you started attacking Doug Ramsey, so we had to lock you up. So then the question is, if Hank that's with the X-Men, if he wasn't switched into the future, then who was that? And we get a pretty good idea who, but there's a little bit of a mystery, but it's you can make a pretty strong assumption. So now that's going to be the repercussions. If this other person had knowledge of the future, what are they going to do with it? And like the stuff that Doug Ramsey did, and like the X virus or whatever. So that's the only thing we'll probably see some repercussions from that. But all the other stuff, I don't think it's going to matter. How many months? It feels like this has been months. I don't think it's been. Maybe it's been 3 months? Because I'm trying to think how many issues all these tie-in books had. There's 3 issues, but maybe, I don't know if they came out more than once a month. But it is over. And I don't know. I hope people are happy with it. I'm just happy that it's over. and that the comics talk is over. That is it for the comics for this. No more Age of Revelation. Thank you. All right, Pluribus season finale, season 1, episode 9, La Chica o el Mundo. So it means the girl or the world. So it's at day 71, 31 minutes, 32 seconds. So we see one of the non-joiners, Kusi Mayu. She's outside like sweeping and like looking up in the sky. And I think there's a plane or something overhead. I don't remember. But then a couple women tell her that something is ready. Her lunch is ready. They made one of her favorites, and she's still looking up. She's like, "Is that it?" And they ask if she's excited or nervous, and she says that she's excited. So then, like at an airport, we see a jet land. So that's obviously what she was looking at before. There's a man waiting on a runway. They pass him this like big plastic box, and he like takes it. The jet like closes the door. Whoever's in there, they just like the plane starts to leave right away. The dude driving, he drives a box to Kusimayu's village. Oh, did I mention? So she's I said she's one of the non-joiners. So she was a young, I think one. So he arrives at the village with the box. She's sitting in a pen, like a whatever enclosed fenced off area. She's got a cute little goat in her lap, and she's like petting it. The dude arrives, and she's like, "Did it arrive?" And they tell her not to be afraid, and she's like, "I'm not." So the man sets the box down and leaves. He just doesn't even stick around. He just gets back in the Jeep, whatever. Inside, in the box is like this big metal canister. It's like packed in like styrofoam padding or whatever. The village is like singing the song, and then she asks if it's gonna hurt, and they're like, "We'd never hurt you." So they're like, "Are you ready?" She nods. So they get ready to open the canister, and then she's like, there's a thing in her. So she like opens the sheet. They open it. She sticks her face and like breathes in, and then she just like looks back and forth at them. And then she starts shaking. So to ease her body down, they put like a blanket down for her. Her body's like convulsing and everything. Then it starts to slow down. She starts blinking, like her eyes open. She smiles. She sits up. Then they like walk away. One person puts like the canister back in the box, or maybe the guy didn't leave the truck, because I think they stick it in the truck now, and the guy was just sitting there waiting. So Kusi Mayu opens the pen with the chicken, just lets the chickens out, whatever. And she starts walking out. The goat starts following her. Then it like stops. So that's it. She's gone. She's like one of them now. And a poor little goat, it's probably like oh, here's this nice human petting me, taking care of me, and now she doesn't care. So then we see Carol's watching like drone footage of Manusos driving the ambulance, and she asks Zoja like how long until he gets there, because last episode Zoja said she was gonna have a visitor. Zoja says about 2 hours. And Carol's like, "This is the guy I yelled at when we were on the plane." And Zoja's like, "Well, you had a lot on your mind." She's like, "And he's in an ambulance?" And Zoja's like, "Mm-hmm." So Carol looks at her, and Zoja's just like, "Long story." So she's like, "What does he want?" And Zoja's like, "He won't talk to us." So he did receive your first video. And Carol's like, "Yeah?" And Zoja's like, "Maybe he's heeding your call. I'm thinking, I probably shouldn't be here when he arrives. It would upset him. You don't have to be here either, Carol. It's all completely up to you." And she's like, all the way from Paraguay? And she's like, mm-hmm. And Carol's like, well, hell, I owe it to him, don't I? I'll just hear him out and send him on his way. I mean, it's not like he's dangerous, is he? Is he dangerous? There's a pause. We don't think he'd ever hurt you. So now it's actually day 60. Before, it was day 71. And now it's day 60. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. So at this point, so Manuso, or whatever her name is, not Manuso, I don't remember her name. She hasn't changed yet because it's day 60, 6 hour 16, 40 minutes, 17 seconds. So he arrives at Carol's. He's like practicing his English. My name is Manusos Oviedo. He gets out of the ambulance. He looks at the house, and then he like honks a horn. So Carol comes out. He's like, my name is Manusos Oviedo. I am not one of them. I wish to save the world. And she nods. She's like, hola, me llamo Carol Sturka. Bienvenidos to mi casa. And she's like, hi. And she's like, hablamos? He's like, yes, we talk. And she's like, pero no machete. Yo no peligroso. So I'm not dangerous. So he like thinks about it. He like looks around. She's like, it's safe. And he takes the machete off his belt, puts it in the ambulance. She's like, okay, aquí. And he holds his hand up to say, just a second. He opens the back. He's like, we talk in here, in the back of the ambulance. She's like, let's hablamos en mi casa. Maybe better, mejor? And he's like, we talk in the ambulance. And she's like, no, we talk in the casa. And he shakes his head. She holds up her hand for just a second, goes inside, gets her phone. She starts down her driveway, like speaks in the phone. She's like, sorry, I'm not getting into a creepy ambulance with... He grabs the phone out of her hand. And she's like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, give me that. In Spanish, she's like... He says, are you crazy? They're listening. So then the phone, is translating, basically. So it says, they will find out about our plan. And she reaches for her phone, but he, like, moves back. She's like, I'm not an idiot. It's in airplane mode. Airplane mode, no signal. Give it to me. And then he drops it in a sewer grate. And she like curses. She's like, are you kidding me? You know what? You can get back in your ambulance and fudge right off. I'm finito. And she like wipes her hands together and walks up to her house. And like the phone, luckily it's not like a deep sewer grate because you can still see the phone and it's like still like translating. He's like, Carol Sturka. But she goes inside. He like honks a horn again. And he says to himself, he's like, this is going just great. He gets his machete out, goes to the sewer. He's like, this sucks. So he's able to like tip the phone like on the side, like against the back wall of the sewer grate. And there's like a magnet on the back of the phone case, which I don't know how that works. I don't think it's always magnetic. I know like you can charge, there's like magnetic chargers or magnetic thing, whatever. So he's able to stick the blade against the back of the phone, and then he's able to carefully like lift it up, and he gets it out. He rings the doorbell, speaks into the phone, and holds up to the peephole. He's like, okay, you win. Telephone, yes. Ambulance, no. But I need an umbrella. Then he like walks out into the opening. So they're like in the back, behind her backyard. There's just a big empty field or whatever. So he opens the umbrella, and he asks her to come here, and he points up. I think she's like, big time por qué? Like how come? So he speaks, phone translates. It says, these weirdos have eyes up above. They can read lips from space. And then she's like, so let's go inside. The drones can't spy on us there. And he speaks, of course they can, with microphones, spy microphones. And Carol's like, you think they planted a bug in my house? And then he listens to the thing. He's like, un insecto? Because they translated bug as like an insect. And he's confused. She tries correcting, but the phone keeps like translating everything. And she finally gets under the umbrella. She's like, why would they spy on us inside my house? He's like, you are against them. No, I watched your video. Why would the weirdo send me that video? And she's like, I asked him to. He's like, Carol Sturka. And then the phone, he says some stuff. The phone translates, why would they help two humans come together to destroy them? And she's like, destroy? She's like, I never said destroy. And he's like, these weirdos are evil. They have stolen everyone's soul. If we can't fix them, they are better off dead. She's like, they're still human beings. And he's like, they are not human. She's like, yes, they are. They are. They are. They're human. They're different. I mean, they're weird, yes. Too nice, yes. But they're not And he's like, slow, because it's, the phone's like trying to translate. She's like, they are not evil. They wouldn't even kill an ant. And he's like, it translates, and isn't it evil to value a man the same as an ant? And she's like, have you even tried talking to them? You could learn a thing or two. It's like, they can't lie. Did you know that? He's like, you said the weirdos abandoned you. And she's like, yep, for 40 days. And he's like, why they come back? And she lies. She didn't say that she wrote a message. She's like, no sé. I don't know. And she's like, why can't they pick up an apple? This is a stupido. I'm going inside. And he puts down the umbrella, looks up, and, she walks through her backyard. He follows. So he's like searching her house, like reaches under the sofa, finds like a cheese puff. And she's like, told you, no microphono. Happy? He holds up his hands. He's like looking, and he like snaps. And she just looks at him, and he turns, and he does it again, and she shakes her head. She's like, I don't speak snap. And, he doesn't understand. And she like wags her finger. And he's like, to telefono, please. And with a smile, he like speaks, what about the 11 other survivors? Did they respond to your video? And she's like, nope. He's like, they didn't even want to talk? And she's like, not to me, but I bet they'd love your sparkling personality. So he keeps like looking for a microphone. She's like, you're not going to find anything. And she's like, you need a drink? You need a drink. And she starts getting a drink, and he practically like shoves her out of the way, keeps searching. She's like, do you mind? She's like, what the hell? She's like, okay, buddy, I don't know how guests behave in Paraguay, but here in Albuquerque, you cockblock someone from their booze, it's un grande mistake-o. She's like, you're not even listening. And finally, he pulls something out from under her drink cabinet. And she's like, what the hell is that? And he's like, a sensor maybe? And she picks up her phone. Hi, Carol. And she's like, have you been spying on me? And the voice like, spying? It might be Zoe. I don't remember if it's, I think Zoja's on the phone. And she's like, spying? She's like, there's a thing in my liquor cabinet. And Zoja's like, what kind of thing? She's like, I don't know, a plastic rectangular, kind of tacky looking, like something out of a James Bond movie. It sure as poop didn't come with the cabinet. She's like, did you put it there? And there's like a little pause. Right. It wasn't us, Carol. Do you remember May of 2011? You were freezing your eggs. There's a mention of the eggs again. And Carol's like, yeah, so? She's like, the device is a movement sensor. It detects when the cabinet is open. Then it records it. Again, we didn't put it there. And she's like, Helen. And Zoe, she's like, sorry, Carol. And Carol's like, no. It's all right. I'll call you later. And then to Manusa, she's like, it wasn't them. No weirdos. He's like, who? And she's like, mi esposa. She didn't like my glug, glug, glug. He's like, now I really need a drink. Then he's like, who you talk to on telefono? And she's like, them, always them. Los otros. I'm tired. We save the world mañana. And she's like, snaps. And then she takes him to a neighbor's house. And she's like, the kitchen has plenty of food. There are fresh sheets on the bed, towels in the bathroom. We'll talk more tomorrow. Good night. Sleep tight. Then he's like, who is this house? And she's like, I think their name is Wilson. She's like, look, I'll square it up with them if they ever come back. And she's like, Jesus, that would be a great problem to have. He's like, this is not your house. And he's like, it's not your house. I no stay. And she's like, oh, so that big yellow thing parked outside is your ambulancia? She's like, go sleep in that for all I care. My vodka's getting warm. And you're welcome. And she walks out. Then he picks up the phone. And it's weird because there's a dude's voice. Hola, Menosos. We are so happy to hear from you. What can we do for you? It's like, how would they know that he's picking up and that it's not Carol? So he's like, am I speaking with the same weirdo who Carol Sturko was talking to? They're like, no, that was another individual. What is the name of this individual? Zoja. I want to speak with Zoja. So Carol passed out on a sofa. She drops an empty glass. She wakes up and then she locks the door. She puts a chair in front of it because she's like, okay, there's a dude out here. I don't trust him. He's got a machete. She looks out the window and she's like, the fudge? Zoja's car is parked in front of the Wilson house. So she goes investigate. She like runs over, barges in. They're sitting on a sofa. Hi, Carol. And Carol's like, what the hell is going on here? What are you doing? And he's like, you say I need talk, I talk. And she's like, not to her. It's like, what did you talk about, Zoja? It's like, what did you tell him? And he's like, todo. Como se dice? And then to Manusos, she's like, everything. And he repeats. And Carol's like, I know what Toto means. And she grabs Zosia's hand. She's like, come on, we're going. And Zosia starts to apologize and she's like, Zosia, now. So they walk out. He picks up the phone. He's like, send me another one. He says it in Spanish. At her place, she like locks the door and puts up the chair. And she's like, Toto, what kind of everything did you tell him? And she's like, sorry, Carol. And she's like, did you tell him? What exactly did you tell him? And she's like, we didn't volunteer anything. He asked us specific questions, detailed questions. He was very thorough and insistent. And it's our nature. We had to answer him. And Carol's like, yeah, you had to, right? She's like, I know. Why do you have to be so fudging honest? She's like, it's not just in us to lie. She's like, yeah, but to me, not to him. And Zosia's like, I know this is hard to understand, but we love him the same as we love you. And Carol's like, no. She's like, you can't love him the same. It's not the same. It's different. He's a stranger. You barely know him. You told me so yourself. And you're my chaperone, mine. And Zosia like smiles. And she's like, yes, that's true. But she's like, I want you to stay away from him, all right? I mean, did you see that machete? And you should hear the things that he says about you. Weirdos, evil. And Zosia like lies on the floor. She's like, what are you doing? She's like, sorry, Carol. Something's about to happen. And she's like, what? And she's like, please don't be alarmed. And Carol's like, Zosia? And then she starts convulsing. Zosia? Jesus. She puts a pill on her head. It's like, what's happening? I didn't even... And she thinks about Manusa. She curses, runs over there again. There's another car. She goes inside. Manuso's like leaning over to some guy on a sofa, and he's like convulsing. She's like, hey! She's like, get away from him. Hey! And he gets up, and he goes to the ambulance. I thought he was like going for his machete, but he just moves that away. He looks in his notebook at like the one channel. So he's writing down like the radio channels, whatever, that he put a question mark after because there's like some weird static. He tunes a little radio to the channel, goes inside with it. Carol yells at him. She's like, you're a psycho. You know that? Do you have any idea how many people you probably just killed? And the guy starts to lift his head. And she's like, hey, you're okay. Just take it easy. Manusa's standing there with the radio. And then he leans in the guy's face and he yells again, ah! And Carol like jumps back. She's like, what the fudge? And the guy starts convulsing again. She moves back. He puts a radio in the guy's hand and gets close. He's like, Rick, I know you're in there. I help you. I am here. Listen, Rick, I am here. You come back. Yes, you can do it. Listen, Rick, you remember, you are there. You are there, but you come back. I know you are there. You can remember. You can come back. You can come back. I am here. Listen to me. And then, blam! Picture on the wall gets blown away, and he like ducks, and he looks up. Carol's holding a shotgun, and then back away now. So she goes back to check on Zosia. Zosia wakes up, and she's like, hey, here, lean up against the chair. And she's like weak and sore, and she's like, you all right? And Zosia's like, yeah. Can we have some water? And she's like, yes, of course. And she's like, thank you. She's like, you sure you're okay? She's like, yes. Thirsty is all. I'll be fine, thanks. And she puts her hand on Carol's, and Carol puts her other hand on top. And she's like, would you like to know who that is? And she's like, I know who that is. I don't know who that is. So the guy said his name was Rick. And then I'm thinking, it couldn't be someone that Manosos knows. So then the phone was ringing. She picks it up. And she's like, it wasn't me this time. Oh, wait. No, I think what was happening, I think what it meant, I was so confused about that, then I was thinking about it. So I think what was happening is the phone started ringing, and then that's when Zosia is like, would you like to know who that is? And then Carol says, I know who that is. So she picks up the phone, and she's like, it wasn't me this time. And she's like, She's like, screw you too, Laxmi. So Laxmi is the annoying non-joiner person who has a kid who doesn't care that her kid is a weirdo, quote unquote weirdo. Laxmi is probably calling her to complain about that this happened. Zosia stands. She's like, Carol, I'm so sorry. It's like, you know what we have to do. And she sighs and she nods. So they're going to leave. So outside, the other guy, Rick, drives away. Carol walks Zosia to her car. She's like, where's Manosos, Carol? And Carol's like, he's fine. Don't worry about him. And Zosia's like, for what it's worth, you should know he did warn us first before he did what he did. And she gets in her car. And she's like, please tell him that we're sorry it came to this. So then she leaves. Carol opens her truck. Manoso's inside. He gets out, takes out her phone. She's like, they're leaving again. All of them. The whole city. I tried to tell you. He's like, so what? And then It translates, "It was worth it completely. Now I know much more. You are right. I think there's a way to put things back in their place." And he's like, "Come on. Now the work begins, Carol Sturka." And Carol's like, "There's water and power if you need anything else, food or whatever, dial 0. He's like, "Carol Sturka." And then he says some stuff, it translates, "Do you want to save the world or get the girl?" And she gets in her car, backs up and leaves. Then we see Zosia's swimming in a pool. Carol's reading in a deck chair. She looks at Zosia swimming. She drinks some, must be like hot chocolate or something. It's got like whipped cream. And then later, they're like walking down a beach. There's like cliffs in the background. Later, they're having tea in a bubble bath for 2. Then there must be skiing because they're like in a chairlift. And then they're sitting by a fire in a ski lodge. They have some drinks. And Zosia's like, "You seem pretty quiet." And Carol's like, "No, just thinking." And Zosia's like, "What you thinking?" And Carol's like, "Nothing. No, I was just wondering if you, the first you, the unjoined Zosia you, and she's like, "I understand." And Carol's like, did she have someone in her past?" And Zosia's like, "She did. It was a long time ago." And Carol's like, "And what happened to them? Are they in there like with you right now?" And Zosia's like, "No, they're not." And then Carol's like, "Oh man." She's like, "I'm sorry. I don't think I'm good at just feeling good. What does that to you?" And she's like, "Does what?" Carol's like makes you happy. Like in our bodies, what chemicals? And Zosia's like, "There's a mix: serotonin, dopamine, vasopressin, oxytocin, of course." And she's like, "Fun fact, a study of zebrafish seems to imply that oxytocin is responsible for the development of empathy in vertebrate species about 200 million years ago." I like when she's like, "Fun fact." It just seems so not normal, like for whatever. So Carol's like, "I must have every happy chemical flowing in my bloodstream. I keep thinking it's going to go away, but then it doesn't. And I don't want it to." And Zosia's like, "I'm glad. And it only gets better." And then Carol's like, "Better? You're not talking about the joining, are you? Because that's not even, you told me you needed my stem cells." And she's like, "What, did that change?" And Zosia's like, "No, that's right." And she's like, "So without my stem cells, you can't convert me?" And she's like, "Mm-hmm." And she's like, "And if I don't expressly give you my consent to jam a giant needle in my ass, then you can't take them and I stay me, right?" And she's like, "That would be correct." And Carol's like, "Would be? There's no other way to get my stem cells, is there?" Listen back to a previous episode when I called it. She's like, "So there's no other way to get my stem cells, is there?" And she's like, "If there wasn't, you'd say so. So there is a way." And long pause. Carol closes her eyes, and then she realizes the loophole. She's like, "My eggs, the ones I froze with Helen, you have them, don't you?" And Zosia's like, "We do." And Carol's like, "And you can make those into stem cells, can't you?" And Zosia's like, "It takes time and patience, plus a bit of luck." Carol's like, "But you're working on it." And Zosia's like, "We are." It's like, "You have to understand how beautiful it is, Carol. You'll see why we have to share it. As happy as you've been, that's only the tip of the iceberg. In fact, Kusimayu, you remember the young Peruvian girl, she just joined us. So that must be, now we're caught up to that moment." She's like, "And I promise you, she's happier than she's ever been. You can hear that straight from her if you'd like." And then Carol's like, "How long do I have?" And Zosia's like, "Induced pluripotent stem cells can be very fragile, and we're dealing with haploid. How long?" And Zosia's like, "A month. Hopefully no more than 2 or 3. And Carol whispers, she's like, "If you loved me, you wouldn't do this." And she's like, "Carol, please understand, we have to do this because we love you, because I love you." And there's a pause, and she's like, "Carol?" And then it's day 74. So now it must be like 4 days later. 18, 30 minutes, 21 seconds. Manuso has like a bunch of books about like electricity and stuff. He writes in a notebook. He's still at the Wilson house. You see like the shotgun hole still on the wall. It's like about 2 weeks later now, right? Because 70 to 74 days. He's still like, he has to look up words in English every once in a while. He gets up, here's a helicopter. It's like carrying this like square metal crate. He like kind of crouches down like for a little ditch and like watches it get delivered to Carol's driveway. Then the helicopter lands in the court. Zoja's flying. Carol like looks at her. They both look at each other like in silence. Carol takes off the headset without a word, gets out, closes the door, gives one last look, and then she's standing in her driveway. Zoja lifts off. Carol watches her go, stands in her driveway, like shakes her head and sighs. She sees Minosos. She's like, "You win. We saved the world." And she starts walking inside. He like follows. He's like, "Carol Stripka, what is this?" And she keeps walking. Atom bomb. And then he looks at the crate. And then the camera pans up. End of season 1. So, that's just kind of crazy. It's like, I don't even know what that means. So Carol realizes her time is limited, that they're going to get her. And now they don't need her permission, which is weird that they're just, I mean, I guess they didn't need permission to begin with. They just did this to everyone and it didn't work with everyone. And they're going to get a way to turn Carol, which is weird because, like, what do you need stem cells like when they change everyone to begin with? Because maybe it's because they're different. So it didn't, whatever they did to everyone else didn't work for these few. So they need to get into the stem cells to make it work. Like whatever barrier is preventing it from happening. And the crappy thing now is, who knows when we're going to get a season 2? It could be a while because they don't even have a start date. So I think I mentioned that last week. They're just like, it's like, yeah, we're just gonna work on this at our own pace, like we did the first time around, where there's no pressure to just, try to crank it out. And I appreciate that because you don't want to force it. It's like, oh crap, we got to come up with a script, we got to do something. It's like you just come up with ideas and let it happen naturally. But at the same time, as long as it takes them to write that, then they got to start production. And then how long is it going to take? So is it going to be like a year, 2 years? And that's the bad thing about streaming TV. Back in the day, like when Breaking Bad was on, it followed a schedule. You had your seasons. You had the beginning of the season, end of the season. And then you'd have got to pick up in a few months. The next season is going to start. But these days, now, it's just, I mean, you look at like Stranger Things, like how much time has passed, and it's they just, so I get, I don't want anyone to have to rush and crank stuff out and have it be subpar, but at the same time, you don't want to wait forever because it interrupts the flow. And so now I'm curious when they do this, let's say it is a year and a half or whatever. Are we going to have a year and a half pass in the show? Because that doesn't make sense because they said, 3 months max. But I guess it's a matter of she could go into hiding, but then she would have to hide from everyone because as soon as they know where they're at, they're going to go after her. So is real time going to pass? So if let's say a year passes for us, is it going to be a year in the show, or are they going to pick up like a few months later? I would be leaning that they're probably going to just go like a few months later. As little as possible, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I enjoyed that show. So hopefully we don't have to wait too long. All right, now Fallout Season 2, Episode 2, The Golden Rule. So as I mentioned before, I wasn't super crazy about this episode. I think the main thing is we see a lot with the Brotherhood, with the Knights and that. And I'm not finding that super interesting. And part of the thing also, we see more of Maximus. We do get some backstory on him, like before he went in the fridge, before the Shady Sands was bombed and all that. I don't really care for his character. I feel like, and I don't know if we're supposed to sympathize a little more for him here, but the whole thing is he became a squire, and it was questionable how that happened. It's, because Dane was supposed to be the squire, but then Dane put his foot in a boot and there was knife in there. And so his foot got or not knife, there's glass in his boots. And so the question is, how did that happen? Did Maximus actually do that? And I don't know if it was ever fully cleared that it wasn't him. So, and, he wasn't a likable character, which, maybe we're supposed to care for him then because, he's getting beat up by the others or whatever. But it's like no one liked Maximus. And then he finagles his way, or luckily or falls into being a squire. And then the knight dude, I forgot the other character, was basically a piece of crap too. And Maximus, doesn't he end up killing him? And then he takes the armor and everyone thinks he's Maximus. So he's doing all this under false pretenses. And it's just, he kind of had this sort of like attitude. And I don't know, he just kind of bothered me a little bit. And even the way the first season ends, he takes credit for killing Moldover when he didn't do that. And he's just going along with it. So there's a lot with, I just don't care about him. I want to see more about like Lucy and Ghoul. And I'm curious, like, what the heck is Hank, Kyle MacLachlan, what's he doing? So we'll see. But I was intending to cover episode 2 and 3 this week, but after I think I mentioned this earlier. After watching this one, I was like, I don't know if I really want to watch a second episode. I don't know if I have the time to watch a second episode this week or last week. But yeah, so I'm just going to cover one, and let me know what you think, if you want to keep hearing about it or not. But the thing is, there's the other thing also is like we don't have a lot of shows this month that I'm aware of that we normally cover or want to hear about. So I don't know. So it starts off, we see young Maximus. He's like walking through the downtown, just Shady Sands, whatever. The sun's out, people are having picnics and stuff like that. There's some soldiers in town, but it's like, it seems like everything's like calm and peaceful. It's like, then we see this dude, he pumps out some water from this big contraption. It's Maximus's dad. He scans it and he's like, no trace of rats. So he hands the glass to his wife, and then he says that there's more clean water down there than they thought, and no one will have to worry about rationing again. So then they can grow more crops, they can have another kid. And she's like, well, yeah, as soon as we can figure out how to push a baby out your own butt or something like that. And they laugh. So then we see like there's like, I don't know if there's more soldiers, but there's one guy coming in and he's like, patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter. And he just like keeps repeating that. It's almost like he's in a daze or something like that, because he's just walking down the street pulling this cart and just repeating that. So it's like, that seems weird, and there's something, Then back to young Maximus, he's walking with his dad now. So they go to check out, see what the caravan brought to town. And then they see the soldier who's muttering about the Mojave, whatever. He's like lying on the ground. There's like blood around his eyes. So Maximus, his dad, he's like, does anyone call a doctor? He like bends down to tend to him. And then he sees there's a neck device under his hair. So he's got a thing on the back of his neck, on his head, whatever. So then he gets up, he goes to the cart, he pulls like some stuff off, and he finds like this big bomb under like a tarp. So he starts yelling for everyone to run. He tells Max, like, go home to your mom. He gets up in a cart and he's with the bomb. Maximus doesn't want to leave his dad, but then he finally starts running. Dad starts opening up the bomb controls to see like what he can do, and he cuts one of the wires, but then the screen shows like a vault boy, and it says failsafe activated. It like flashes on the screen, and then the compartment that's open, it seals shut. He gets off the cart, he starts yelling at the few remaining soldiers, like, go, go, go. A timer starts up on display with like 3 minutes. So there's a 3-minute countdown. He makes it home, so he must have been really close. He tells Maximus to go get his kit, and then he goes to the fridge. He starts like pulling stuff out, like shelves and everything like that. He's like, son, don't be scared. He's like, now listen, I'm going to need you to stay in here, okay? He's like, someone's going to come and get you out. But until then, he starts like kind of crying. He's like, I need you to eat and drink very slowly, okay? He's like, don't be scared. It's safe in there. So like mom hugs him, dad hugs him. Maximus has tears, and dad whispers, he's like, you are a good boy, and one day you will be a good man. So he's like, come on, let's get in here. He's like, listen, it can be tough out there, but as long as we leave it a little bit better than we found it, we did okay. And he's like, no, daddy, no. He shuts the door on him, and then he hugs his wife. Both are sobbing, and he's like, it's okay, we did good. We raised him. We did okay. And then there's a big bright flashlight. and then it's like black. And we see kind of like a mushroom, little mushroom cloud in the city, like smoke billows, and then the shock waves just like spreads. Whoosh. Then it cuts to we see Hank. At first I was like, is this? It's not the present yet, but we see Hank. He's like washing his hands, so he's younger. He stares in the mirror. The closed caption says it's young Lucy calls out to him. She wants him to go read to her. He seems bothered by something because he's just like staring in the mirror. And he closes his eyes and he sighs. He puts on a smile. He's like, okie dokie. And he puts his Pip-Boy down. There's a message on the screen that says, detonation successful. So this is, we found out last season, Hank was involved with the bombing of Shady Sands. So young Lucy hands him a book and asks, like, when is Mom coming back? So then it cuts to today. Maximus is like in a suit. This mutated something comes at him and jumps at him. He shoots it. He walks around. He's in his armor suit. He walks around. He's shooting some more. He's not alone. There's like others. They're like in some like office. And after killing the last mutate, there's like this metal box thing. It's like on a desk. The other guy's like, that's what we came for. And Max is like, doesn't matter. So he's like, pack it up and report to the vertibird, which is like the helicopter ship thing. On board, he just sits there. He's out of his armor. He's like emotionless. And then they fly to this big craft. They dock their copter. And the soldier's like, oh, hail Maximus. And they cheers. And Dane's there kind of like looking like concerned. In the desert, you see like there's a swing set. There's a little metal rocket. These two guys go up to it. They pry open the hatch. There's little computer controls in there, and he inserts something, and like there's like a fusion core socket, and he tells the others like, we have power. So on the big craft, Elder Cleric Quintus, so he's like the guy in charge or whatever, he asks if they've encountered much resistance. Maximum's like, abominations, like nothing we couldn't handle. Then he hands them the metal box thing, and he's like, what is it? And Quintus is like, the key to our new home. And he's like, the Brotherhood has become scattered, broken into dozens of rival chapters. By now, we have the strength to unify them under one banner here. It's like the mightiest arsenal in history at our disposal. So the guy plugs the metal thing into like this computer control, and then they signal a guy on the ground by the rocket things. So they press some buttons by like the fusion core things, and then like 4 towers come out of the ground, and then propellers kind of extend out, like unfold out. And then they like spin. They're like giant fans. Sand starts blowing up. Maximus looks down. Quintus is like, together we will fulfill our promise to make better this fallen world, my son. So then we see Lucy and Gould. They're walking down this like desert road. She drinks from her canteen. And then he like looks at her, puts out his hand, and rudely is like, water. And then he just like grabs it out of her hand. And she just like looks at him. She's like, were you always this rude? She's like, I'm guessing not. And she's like, look, your family may very well be out there. I've seen enough by now to know that nearly anything is possible. But one thing I wouldn't count on is them appreciating the kind of person you become. I mean, you want them to like you, right? He just like looks at her and continues walking. She's like, I'm just saying, a little bit of kindness can go a long way. Charles Dickens actually wrote a book about it. If you're interested. And he's like, nope. And she's like, and by the third goes, he was pretty much cured. And he's like, Then there's like a distant shout for help. He keeps walking, like, somebody help, please. So they're passing by this like rundown, overgrown like hospital. She's like, I think it's coming from inside. And Ghoul's like, empathy's like mud. You lose your boots in that stuff. And she's like, well, I'm not just gonna let someone die while I listen to him scream. And he's like, folks been screaming for 200 fudging years. And she's like, did it ever occur to you that if you helped them, they would stop? He's like, you want to know what I was like before this war? I was just like you, stupid. So the shouting continues. She like glares at him, and she like heads for the building. So Ghoul and Dogmeat follow. As they get closer, the voice continues. He's like, waste of time. And she's like, doing the right thing is never a waste of time. So they have to go inside. They go down. Dogmeat barks every now and then. And there's a lady sitting on the floor. They're kind of like in this kitchen area. Like a big, like whatever kitchen, and she's like clutching like her belly or something, and she's like, we need medicine. And she's like, what happened here? And she says, Ghoul says, tunics. And the lady gives him a look. He's like, you're awfully far west, ain't you? So tunics must be what she is, like whatever. And Lucy's like, ignore him. She's like, I got one stim pack left, okay? And she's like, okay. And Ghoul's like, that would be a profound misallocation of resources. Folks in them outfit don't deserve saving. So Lucy gives him a look, hands her water canteen over, and then there's a wounded man nearby. He starts groaning. And Ghoul's like, another one. He's like, let me help you up there, cowboy. So he holds out his hand. The dude takes it, and Ghoul slashes his throat. And the lady's like, no. Lucy like stands in shock. And he's like, but you did lead us to dinner. So he eats a bar or something that the guy had on him. And Lucy's like, no, not her too, because he's like going to kill her. But then he starts gagging. He spits out the food. And he goes back to the guy that he just killed. And there's like a green like pus wound or something. Like I think it was like on his back. And there's like some scuttling in the distance. Ghoul pulls out his gun. Lucy's like, what was that? The scuttling continues. There's a loud boom. But it's like, okay, this lady, she's not saying anything. There's like some metal clanging. Then finally the lady whispers, they're back. So Ghoul tries like looking through the windows of the door. There's like push doors because, again, they're like in this kitchen area. Lucy, she looks up at the ventilation pipes. And then there's like this big grate in the pipe that's open and something moves in there. And then a big something drops down behind her. Closed caption calls it a baby rad scorpion. It starts screeching and it like jumps on her chest. Ghoul just like stares, and one jumps on his shoulder and he like pulls it off and shoots it. Another one approaches like his leg from the other side. He shoots at that. Lucy's like, it's like almost like crawling on her face now. She manages to pull it off and she flings it to the side. She reaches nearby. There's like a big metal like cast iron pan or something like that. She like smashes it. Then something big tries coming in through the other room to the door. It like tries pushing through, but the door just something like blocking it in the front. And it pushes it again, like it still doesn't get through. Dog meat, he runs off whimpering. Then the big thing pushes open, knocks Ghoul over, and it's a giant red scorpion. I guess that's what they're called. So it goes after Ghoul. He ducks under like this metal table that you have like in these industrial whatever kitchens, and its tail pierces through the top. So he throws something at it to try to get it away. Lucy smashes another one with the pan where she's at. And then she bangs at the giant one. Ghoul slides from under the table. He grabs a lady, and then she gets stabbed by the tail. I think she got stabbed a little bit, but it wasn't like deadly. Because Lucy yells to let her go, and then pulls a lady off. Ghoul gets stabbed in the thigh and yells out. The scorpion is like crawling up to his face, snarling. He's able to grab his like ammo belt, and he shoves like something inside. And he's like, "Fudge you, sweetheart." He grunts and like kicks it off him, and then he like spins over and like covers his head. Whoosh! It like blows up, explodes, and then he grunts in pain from his leg. He says to Lucy to give him the stim pack, and the lady's like, "Help me!" And she says that again, and Lucy's like, "I only have one," and the lady's like, "Please," and Ghoul's like, "Give it to me," and the lady's like, "Please." He's like, "Give it to me." So Lucy jabs a needle in the woman's stomach, and Ghoul groans, and he's like, "Fudge you." And Lucy's like, "She'll die without it. You won't." And she's like, thank you. So Lucy says, "You're welcome." She's like, "We'll get you home to your people, okay?" Ghoul's like, "Golden rule, mother trucker." And she's like, "That rule is for people." It's like, "You're disgusting, cruel. I'm nothing like you, which is why when I get her home, I'll come back for you, give you a little time to think about the consequences of your action." So he groans. She helps the lady out, and she's like, "I wouldn't worry about him. He's very durable. He'll be fine." So then an alarm is going off. Screen says cryogenic temperature alert, and an air hisses. Cryotubes start opening up, and so this is in Vault 31, where Hank's and Lucy's brother Norm, Hank's son. So the people are kind of wearing like the 50s style like clothing. This one woman, Claudia, because her name comes up on the whatever the credits thing. Claudia blinks her eyes open, so they're all confused. They start like putting on Vault jumpsuits. Norm's just like standing there. One dude's like, "Where's Bud Askins? Has anyone seen Bud Askins?" So Bud was the brain in the Roomba. And someone says, "I'm sorry." He's like, "Why are we all here? I thought this was going to be more of a one by one situation." So Norm's like, "There's been a change of plans." This is one Claudia's like, "Should I be able to see by now?" And then this dude, I think his name is Clark, he's like, "Relax, Claudia." He's like, "There's been a change of plans, obviously. Geez." This other lady like falls and slides out of her pod. So Norm's like, everyone, if I can just try and explain. And some, I don't know if it's Claudia, she's like, if they thought everyone at once, this must mean it's Reclamation Day. And he's like, about that, it's been 200 years since you were frozen. It is Reclamation Day. And they're like kind of relieved and they applaud. He's like, but unfortunately, Bud Askins is malfunctioning. So it looks like he threw him in a mop bucket or something like that. I was like, did we miss something? Because I don't think we saw that last episode. He's like, Bud Askins is dead. And they're like, well, I don't know. He's like, so if we can just try and remain calm, we need to figure out a way to get out of here together. And Clark's like, get out of here. It's like, wait. You're saying we're trapped? And someone's like, is there someone else we can talk to about this? And he's like, please. And there's this one guy, Pete's like, everyone, I'm just gonna go back. And Norm's like, if we could just try and stay focused. And someone's like, someone ate all the crackers from my welcoming kit. And someone else is like, we're all gonna die. So they somehow, Norm got rid of Bud, and then he decided, because I think last episode he decides to unthaw everyone. So it's like, you're letting all these people out. Where are they gonna, you need resources for these people, and they're already limited on resources in the vaults. I don't know what he's thinking. So then we see Hank. He drives this little like 3-wheeler thing. Because he's like at the big Vault-Tec office, whatever building. He plays with the yo-yo that he found. He drives towards like sub-level 4 cryogenic biorepository. He stopped this one room that's marked livestock, and he comes out with a little white mouse. So it's like, okay, there's a white mouse that's alive. How long have they been there? Who's tending to him? Who's feeding him? And it's like, how many are there? So he takes it to the lab. He picks up a little tiny neck device thing. He puts it on the mouse. Puts the mouse in this glass cage. There's like a miniature desk and whatever. And then he pushes a button and turns this dial. The mouse like squeaks, and he's like turning the dial a little bit, and then it explodes. So I don't know if he just turned it too high or whatever. So he gets another one. And then a third one. Fourth one, fifth, 5, 6, 7. And I don't know if he's cleaning up these glass cases all the time, or if he's got this many. After the 7th one, I think, the little mouse gets in a desk chair, so it looks like it's going to work, but then, and he's just like, okay. So he's trying to get these neck things to work, but they keep blowing up the mice. The big craft is over like this old base in the desert. There, you see there's like this no trespassing sign outside. And then on the building, it says AR-51, so must mean it's Area 51. Armored Knights go down and investigate. One guy finds like a frozen alien in his box, and he's like surprised. He just pulls the alien out, and he's like, a real fudging icebox, huh? So it was still working. So later, there's lots of soldiers down there, like not in armored suits. They're like, I guess, cataloging everything. Maximus, I don't know if he's in charge, but he's just like walking around out of his armor. Like some guy shows him this big gun thing, and he says, take it to the clerics to check out. There's a couple others are playing with grenades inside, whatever. And then some find this like brand new shiny car, so they push it outside, and they use it for target practice. And they just shoot at it until it explodes. It's like, okay, that was just a waste, and that's just dumb. The cold fusion thing is added to this machine, whatever the Vault Boy screen says, cold fusion ready. This guy asks Dane, he's like, what do you think that he'll do with it? And Dane's like, nothing good. So Dane seems to be skeptical with whatever Quintus, the leader dude, is doing. Maximus splashes some water in his face. This young aspirant is like, why are you doing that? And Maximus says, because it's important. Then he's like, what is our duty? And the young guy's like, to fix a fallen world. And Max is like, sometimes, in order to make a big problem something you can handle, you got to make it small. So we start by bettering ourselves. And you can do that in all sorts of ways. Self-discipline, generosity, valor, and not smelling really bad. So then he goes to his suit and he stares a bit. He gets some like cleaner to like wipe it. Dane's like, it's always going to get dirty again. And Maxim's like, better to polish dirty steel than have it stay clean. And Dane's like, used to quote the codex to each other as a joke. And Maxim's like, I've seen what it's like out there. The Brotherhood is as good as it gets. I'm just trying to make it better. And Dane's like, it couldn't have been all bad out there. You met that girl. And he like kind of looks away and pauses. And he says, she left. And Dane's like, maybe she's still out there. And he's like, I have duties here. So it's like, why is he complaining then? He's just being a big baby. Is he so upset because they shared a kiss and he likes her, but she went off to look for her dad, and then he went with the knights? It's like, she has her mission, you have your mission. You didn't go along with her. You turned your back on her. She turned her back on him, or whatever. So it's like, she chose to. This is what she's been doing, is looking for her dad, trying to get answers. And you want her. What would she be doing anyways if he has his duties there? Is she just going to go to base with him and just sit there and smile and cheer for him when he comes back? It's like, whatever. So Dane's like, listen, I've read the comms. Quintus called for this meeting, but he didn't tell the Commonwealth. He's breaking the chain of command. And he's like, Max, the Commonwealth isn't going to let him seize power without a war. Is that what you want? And Max was like, you said it yourself. There's nowhere safe out there. Not as long as there's people out there who, and an alarm goes off. He's like, if the Brotherhood can keep history from repeating itself, it's my job to help them do that. So outside, there's like 3 warships now. So, or whatever, the airships, the big things. And I don't know if they're like blimps or if they're just, because they hover all the time. And I can't imagine they're constantly using, fuel or whatever just to hang there in the air. I don't know. In the room with like the cold fusion running thing, Quintus welcomes all who have traveled from afar for this most auspicious meeting. So then he's like, from the Grand Canyon, from Yosemite. So we see the leaders, they're all like eating like big fancy meals. He's like, from Coronado. He's like, it's been decades since we've gathered to renew our shared and noble purpose. Thanks to the efforts of the knights of our chapter, the axis of power has shifted in the Brotherhood. And someone is like, where the hell is the Commonwealth, Quintus? He's like, they should be here. And he's like, if they were here, what would happen? They would take the relic and give us nothing in return. Does that seem fair to you? Then I think it was a Grand Canyon elder. I don't know if it matters. They're like, no, that's taxation without representation. That's un-American. And I think Yosemite's like, but what you're suggesting would lead to civil war. So then the first guy's like, with the Commonwealth. And Quintus is like, not if we stand together. With the power of the cold fusion diode, we can power airships, armor. We can defeat the Commonwealth, united under a common banner. And there's a lady there. I think she was a Yosemite one. She's like, your banner? And then a couple of knights are like playing with something, laughing. And Maximus finally goes over and takes it from them, like shuts it off. It's like, I don't know if it was another bomb or something. But it's like they're having this meal, and these dudes are just like screwing around. So then the Yosemite elder, whatever, says, the chapters have grown apart over the years, and mine doesn't go in for any of that religious poop. This other guy's like, yeah, and where we come from, women don't get to talk. Runt. But he doesn't say runt. And she like slams a knife down the table. She's like, keep talking, I'll carve you one. So Grand Canyon's like, look, the Commonwealth pretty much lets the canyon rule itself. So as far as we're concerned, everyone else, go fudge themselves, especially you. And then the other guy's like, you just like that they let you mess with robots. And then the guy's like, that was one squire, and he was well within his rights. So there's more bickering. Quintus finally starts banging on the table, and he stands. He's like, yes, we have our differences, but there is something we all agree on, power. So they're showing these like little bombs, like carefully packed in crates. Yosemite's like, how many of those can you make? And Quintus is like, more than all of human history could ever consume. So then the lady's like, the Codex does say that violence against fellow brother is forbidden, but I suppose a Codex is open to interpretation. And they're like, yeah, that. It's like, fudge a Commonwealth. So Quintus is like, then it's decided. And Maximus and Dane are just watching, like, what is going on here? Lucy walks with the lady from the hospital. She tries making conversation, sort of like walking in the woods. And she says that, she's like, oh, I like your outfit. So the lady's like, gratias. And Lucy's like, oh, you speak Latin? She's like, I'm a school teacher myself, so education is very important to me. And the lady's like, you're a kindly profligate? And Lucy's like, thank you. And she's like, I'm headed to Las Vegas. And the lady's like, you shouldn't. And Lucy's like, oh, I have to. I'm looking for someone. And the lady's like, you should go home. I wouldn't want to see you get raped by the wrong people. And Lucy's like, I'll bear that in mind. Then they see like some people standing like on a cliffside. There's like 4 torches going, and it's like some twigs snap around her, and she curses. Then it cuts to Vault 31. People are still bickering, complaining. Someone's like, this is not what I signed up for. And someone else is like, I want to go back. How do I turn my cryo chamber back on? Norm's just sitting there. Then quietly, he's like, if you could just listen to me. And louder, he's like, listen to me. Claudia's like, who even are you? Seriously. He's like, I'm the product of 200 years of genetic engineering, part of a race of super managers, and all of you have been selected to be my staff. You think we've been left locked in Vault 31 by accident? You think Bud Askins made mistakes? And Clark's like, never. And someone else is like, not a chance. And Claudia's like, well, and someone's like, oh my God, Claudia. I think it was Clark. He's like, oh my God, Claudia. It's like, we're trying to have a conversation here. And Norm's like, no, she may have a point. I assume some of the things he said seem downright outlandish, but look at where we are. We're standing in the product of his life's work. We are his life's work. It has to count for something. This is Bud's final test. If I can lead you all to finding our way out of here, we'll all have proven ourselves worthy to carry on Vault Tech's corporate strategy together. And those of you who work quickly and as a team will receive these merit dots. So he has this tin of like little round Band-Aids. They all murmur at the thoughts of the dots or whatever. Clark, he's like, wait. He's like, I took notes at a meeting with the company that installed ventilation. Dibs on ventilation. And I think Claudia's like, oh, the fire suppression system. Maybe we can get some water from there. So more people start murmuring and they get back to work. At Vault-Tec, Hank drives around. He stops at Premium Elite Plus. So he looks in his room and there's like 8 big cryo tubes that we can see. And he just like flicks his yo-yo. Then he pours like some champagne. He says to some guy, he's like, vision still a little fuzzy? Well, you know what they say, have a glass of champagne. So the guy kind of winces. He's like in a business suit. He's like, who are you? And he like reaches for his neck. There's a device thing on the back of his neck, but he doesn't touch it. He like just kind of almost, reaches for it. So Hank's like, my name is Henry McLean. And the guy's like, Henry? And Hank says, I prefer Hank. And the guy's like, Hank, is it Reclamation Day? And Hank's like, yes, it is Reclamation Day, just not quite the way we thought it would be. I've been running an experiment here, and it's not going well. It's like the mice are so small, they're tiny. It's a very fiddly business. And the guy's like, oh, okay, I think there's been some sort of mistake. I signed up for the Vault-Tec Premium Elite Plus. And Hank's like, did you read the fine print? And he's like, yes. And Hank's like, well, I didn't. I prefer the classics. So much has changed since you went under, but it's what stayed the same that concerns me. Old habits, I guess. But I am optimistic that we will be able to work out the kinks. So then he guides both hands of this guy into some contraption thing. There's like a click, and the guy's still kind of like out of it, and he's a little confused. So now he can't move his hands. So Hank's like, I noticed on your file that you had a family, but you only bought a ticket for one. And then he like flicks a switch on this big control box. And the guy's like, it was expensive. Hank's like, you can't put a price on family, Steve. He's like, we were very clear on that in the advertisements. He's like, family is the first building block of civilization. And the guy's like, what are you doing? Hank's like, I'm improving a piece of outdated technology civilization. It hasn't worked out so far, but if at first you don't succeed, and then click, 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 the dude's teeth start like rattling, his eyes bulge, the camera pulls back to the side, and then whoosh, splatter against the back window. So like that's like behind the dude. And but it's like, would it really explode that way? If the device is on the back of his neck, wouldn't it explode forward towards Hank and not backwards? But so we don't really see it explode. We just see the splatter and Hank sighs. He's like, try again. So then we see Lucy walking in the wood. She's using a light from her Pip-Boy. She comes up to a shack. She's like, hello. And like over the door, there's like a half banner, like of a bull. There's like rustling. And then she sees some figures in the shadow and they're armed. And then she assumes like she's surrounded. And then some have torches. They come out and they see like who she is. So she's like, I realize we all have our cultural differences, but just so you know, I am nice. And she smiles, like with her teeth showing. At Vault 31, everyone's working, they're climbing, they're trying to figure out a way out. A couple finally, they make it all the way to the section marked ventilation access, maintenance workers only. this woman has to climb up on the dude's back to reach the hatch, and it like swings out, like bangs her in the head, but she manages to keep her grip on like the door. And she's like, I found a ladder, because there's a ladder going straight up this like tube. So Norm stares, and Clark leans over and he's like, lead the way, boss. So Norm gets under the ladder. He looks up. He starts climbing up, like climbing on stuff and people and like that. They help him up and so forth. He finally reaches, gets up top. He looks at the long ladder. He starts climbing up. So then he reaches like this huge ventilation shaft, like on the surface, and there's like others behind him. So the surface is just desert. Each people has like the survival backpacks or like that. He walks up this mound. He sees like the ocean or whatever. And Clark says, he's like, oh, I guess the mall's gone. And Norm's just like, it's beautiful. Then we see a couple knights are like boxing. Soldiers are cheering on. Maximus just looks as miserable as usual. Quintus and the others are watching. Maximus starts walking away, and this big dude's like, you're the one who killed that NCR witch, Mold over. And Maximus is like, Moldave or whatever. And he's like, I did. I did. I did that. And the guy's like, bet I could mash you. And Max is like, probably. And he just like kind of moves to walk away, but then the dude stops him, and he like turns back. Quintus gives him like, well, kind of look, and he turns back to dude, and he's like, all right, let me get my armor. And the dude stops him again. He's like, no armor, bareback. And the guy's like 1.5 feet taller than him. He's like massive. And Maximus just starts taking his jacket off, but then the guy punches him in the face, and it punches him in the gut. So he kind of like sucker punches him twice. And it's like, okay, this is how you're going to start. And he grabs him, and he like shoves him down. So the dude walks up to him, kicks him, like kind of stomps down on his face, kicks him in the side, gives another like stomp down kick, and the dude like roars to the crowd. Maximus is still on the ground. There's like blood pouring out of his mouth, and he can barely move or get up. And the dude walks over to him. Maximus, he's trying to get up, punches him in the crotch, and he throws his jacket like some dirt in his guy's face, like while he's bent over. He springs up, kind of gives him like a flying kick to the gut. The dude falls onto his back, but then Maximus kind of stumbles his knees as well. They both start getting up. And then the sissy big boy, he decides to pull a knife out of his boot, because even though he's so massively larger, I guess he figures that this is the only way he could win, since his cheap sucker punches didn't work. So they both get up. They start like kind of like circling. Maximus looks over at Quintus again. He doesn't do or say anything. And the dude just kind of like jabs and swings, but Maximus dodges. And he grabs his wrist, so they're like fighting. But the dude's like pushing the blade towards Maximus's chest. And then he kind of swings Maximus over and like punches him in the jaw. And then he swings the blade, whatever, but Maximus ducks and ends up behind him. He manages to make the blade go into the guy's like gut. He's still pushing. The guy goes down onto his back. Maximus gets on top, but then the dude has his left hand around Maximus' throat, and he's like, Maximus is like trying to push down on the guy's hand with the blade. So both of them are straining. Then the dude starts to let his grip go around Maximus' neck, because like we see that the knife is plunged into his like chest. Everyone cheers except for Dane, who's like so immensely disappointed and just like walks away. So the cheering is cut short because a copter ship thing lands outside, blows sand like all over, sand and dirt all over, because the hangar door is like wide open. So it actually flies inside, lands in there. Quintus is even like covering his face, and then Maximus just like stands up. Everyone looks to see who it is. This guy comes out. He's like, sorry to interrupt. He's like, Paladin Harkness, liaison from the Commonwealth. So this guy is Kumal Nanagiani, whatever his name is. He's like, I understand we're discussing a civil war. I must not have gotten my invitation. So Quintus and the other elders like stare at the dude. Quintus is like, and yet here you are. Welcome. So Harkness looks at Maximus standing in front of the dead dude, gives him an approving look, and Maximus just like nods at him. And that's the end of the second episode. So see, for me, there's too much of this Commonwealth night stuff, Civil War, whatever's happening. So I don't care about it, but we'll see. And we're left hanging like, what's going to happen with Lucy? She's surrounded by all these people. Are they nice, or are they going to try to rough her up? So We will find out next week. So episode 3 is currently out. Episode 4 will come out this week. So at some point, I may hopefully do 2 episodes at once, get caught up. We'll see how that goes. That was Fallout Season 2, Episode 3. Okay, then with Stranger Things, we are at Season 5, Episode 6, Escape from Camazotz. It starts off, Dustin's running upstairs. So last episode, Nancy and Jonathan were up on the roof. They thought was a shield generator, so she's about to shoot it, and Dustin's like, it's not a shield generator. So he's running up, yelling at Jonathan, Nancy. He's like, don't shoot it, whatever's up. He like plows into Steve on the stairs, and he's like complaining. He's like, what the heck? And he's like, listen to me. He's like, don't touch anything. So then we see the shotgun. It's like the barrel smoking, so it did fire. They look up, and Jonathan is like, maybe you missed. Then there's like crackling noise, like you see like light crackle, and then there's like a swarm of red, just like in this like a sphere or whatever light energy, and Jonathan tries like getting in front of her. He's like, maybe we should, and she's like, yeah. So there's big flash of light and energy. They go flying back, and there's a huge wave or release, or this energy just goes out, and then it's almost like the new graphics when the Death Star blows up. It's just like a ring of energy just goes whoosh, and it sweeps across like the whole town. Hopper, 11, and Callie come out of the church, and as they see like energy like pass over their heads and then like hits the wall. Then we see someone's knocking the door. It's 5:12 a.m. We see a clock, so it's the science teacher, Mr. Clark, and he gets up, goes there. Erica's at the door, and as soon as he opens, she's like, before you say anything, she's like, I know it's 5 a.m. But I need you to build me a telemetry tracker. And he's like, what, Erica? It is. And then Murray pops out. He's like, 5 a.m. She led with that, buddy. And the guy's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And she's like, my uncle. He's like, babysitter. And this lady comes up wrapped in a blanket. She's like, Snookums, who is it? And he's like, go back, I'll be right there. And Erica's like, the librarian? So he's having a relationship with the librarian, and apparently no one knew about. Then this is where Murray, he's supposed to be funny and everything. I just find him just rude and annoying. He's like, you get too loud in the sack. Does she shush you? As like, 1, it's inappropriate. 2, you're talking like that in front of a kid. I mean, how old is Erica? I guess she's in high school. So then the guy's like, okay, listen, you and whoever you are, this is highly inappropriate. I will see you in class, Erica. He closed the door, but she like puts out her hand, stop it. And she's like, Dustin is in danger. And he's like, danger? What kind of danger? And she's like the life or death kind. And then Murray's like, what do you say, Snookums? You gonna keep playing with your bookworm, or are you gonna build us our tracker and save your star student? Which again, it's just like so inappropriate. So Steve's like, Henderson, Dustin. He's like, hey, what the hell was that? Was that the shield generator? Did they find it? And Dustin's like, I was wrong. I was terribly, catastrophically wrong. And Steve's like, what? Dustin's like, after you left, I found a journal, Brenner's journal, the key to destroying the wall in this lab. But it is not a shield generator. It isn't dark magic. Vecna didn't make it. Science did. The theoretical physicists call it exotic matter, a simple source of energy that is holding the giant wall together. And I think Nancy just shot it. So the energy is swirling around like the sphere. It's kind of violent, looks like. Jonathan and Nancy are lying on the roof. The melted stuff, it's starting to melt again. So it's starting to heat up or something like that. And as it's pouring out, it's starting to get close to them. If it melts and then stops melting, they're going to get stuck in it like we saw those soldiers, like half stuck. Steve's like, how is that bad? He's like, that's why we're here, to get through the wall. And Dust's like, you're not listening. Vecna didn't make the wall, so he isn't on the other side, which means Holly and the missing kids aren't either. Nobody is. And he's like, then what the hell is on the other side of that wall? Hopper, 11, and Callie, they see the wall is like kind of undulating, and Steve's car is like kind of moving. And then for some reason, like the brake lights have been on. So it's like, did they really leave the car on this whole time? That doesn't seem like, it'd be good for the battery. But then it kind of stops, and 11 is like, why did it stop? Which I don't know, it seems kind of like a dumb question. Yeah, it's curious, but it's like, okay, there's all this energy moves and things are the energy goes off, the wall is shaking or moving, whatever. But of course, it's going to stop. You wouldn't assume it's just going to keep going. But then Steve's like, Dustin, what's on the other side of the wall? Which, how would he know? Is like, was that written in the journal, whatever? And Dustin's like, death. It's like, okay, really? Did it say that? How do you know that? Steve Carr gets sucked in through the wall to the other side, and there's kind of like a vacuum with everything, like it just starts getting sucked in. There's like dirt, rocks, branches, and everything like that. So they stand for a bit, and Hopper finally he's like, come on. They like duck down, and he nearly gets smashed in the face by this big piece of debris or whatever. The church is starting to get, come apart. Dustin says, he's like, the whole time, everything we have ever assumed about the upside down has been dead wrong. By the church, it looks like there's a gate to go back. And 11 says that she's like, I can clear a path. Hopper yells at her to stay behind him, but she goes anyways, and Callie follows. So Hopper curses. She uses her TK powers to like block and fling debris coming at them to the side. They head to this like, hopefully it's a gate. He's like, they don't know for sure. And then Dustin's like, this place, upside down, it is another dimension. It's not another world. It's a wormhole, a bridge between 2 points in time and space, between our world and another. Which, again, is how would anyone know that, even if you've been researching it? It's like, where do you get these answers from? Steve's like, and if the bridge collapses? And Dustin's like, it will take us with it, all of us. So then we see like this like big tombstone or whatever, or piece of a wall, someone goes through the hole, and it just floats like silently on the other side with like other debris. And then the wall seems to kind of go forever, but it's like really tall. There's like this big tower or something like that, and the car like kind of floats away dramatically, whatever. In the wake up field area, Max and Holly are running through they run through the floating door. They run all the way to the cave without looking back. And once they get there, Max makes Holly like go inside, and she stands at the entrance looking back for Vecna or Henry. And she runs inside, and she checks if Holly's okay. And she's like, we're safe here. He's like, he can't get us here. Holly gets Max to look behind her, and Henry's like limping towards the cave. He calls out to Holly, and he like stops at the entrance, and gently he's like, Holly, sweetheart, stop or I'll hurt her. And she like stops. He's like, I know you believe Max is your friend, but she has tricked you, Holly. She has corrupted your mind. She is a liar. And she's like, no, you're a liar. I saw you. I saw what you really are. You're a monster, a disgusting monster. And angrily, he's like, Holly, if you don't come back with me right now and rejoin the other children, I will have no choice but to hurt Max. I may even have to kill her. Max is like, then why don't you, huh? I'm right here. Oh, that's right. You're too scared of a stupid cave, you GD coward. And then Henry's like, things have changed, Max. There are now other ways to get to you. And Holly, when your new friend begins to suffer, and she will suffer, you can either return with me and end her suffering, or you can watch your new friend die. Her life is in your hands. So first he's saying, she's not your friend. And now he's saying that I'm going to kill your friend. So he scowls at the cave entrance and he limps away. And then the screen says it's November 6th. So it's like morning. There's like a dead fried demo on the roof of the radio station shack thing. Joyce rubs Will's head as he lies on the couch, like inside. Lucas asks Mike and Robin if someone could explain what the hell happened out there. And they're like, we burnt the particles. Like, I watched them fly up to the tower. You guys saw that, right? So Will should be unplugged from the hive mind. Mike's like, theoretically. And he's like, but why didn't he wake up? How did he see Max? Is she with Holly? Is this real? Is Vecna messing with us again? This makes no GD sense. And Ron's like, the doctors, they never understood why Max was in a coma, right? And he's like, what? No, why? And she's like, okay. And she goes in the other room. And so let's just assume for a second that everything that Will saw was real. He saw Max. He saw Holly. And Luke's like, yeah, but how? She's like, I'm getting that. She's like, let's just say this is Will. She pulls out the Clash London Calling record. And she's like, and this is Holly. And it's the Tiffany record. It's like, I don't know if Tiffany was out in vinyl, like maybe for radio stations. And she's like, this, of course, is Max, duh. And it's Kate, what's her name? Kate Bush, right? Is it Kate Bush? She's like, they're in 3 different locations. It's like the Squawk station, the hospital, and some presently unknown place in the Upside Down, right? But they share one very essential thing in common. They're all unconscious. And they have no idea where she's going with this. And it's like, how would she, and it's this thing, it's like, how do all these people, they come up with these like insane theories which are actually right? It's like, where are you pulling this from? And I know it's for the sake of the show, but it's like, this is like one thing that bothers me. She's like, what happens when Vecna captures you? And Mike's like, you go into trance. And she's like, which would look like a heck of a lot like a coma. She's like, so no wonder the doctors are so clueless. Max was never in a coma. So she knows more than doctors do. And Luke's like, she was in a trance. And Robin's like, just like Will, just like Holly. She's like, it's hitting me like a Whitney Houston high note. And she's like, what if their minds are all in the same place, in Vecna's mind, in prison? And as I'm watching this, I'm like, man, she's so like brutal, like rough with these records. Just putting them on, stacking them on top of each other, setting them down, picking them up, kind of sliding. And I was like, and you work at a radio station and you're not concerned about them scratching or anything? So she's like, so they're in prison. She's like, at least they were. If Will's right, then Max and Holly are now making a prison break. And if they succeed, they will return to their physical bodies and Max will come back to life. And Mike's like, and they'll have been in Vecna's mind, literally. And Robin's like, and they'll know everything. They'll know where Will is. And Mike's like, and where the kids are. And Robin says, they might even know what he's planning. And then Luke is like, that's Endgame. And Robin's like, the fate of the planet may very well rest in the hands of your comatose girlfriend and your baby sister. So then they're like, it's worth one more shot, right? And Mike's like, can you drive? And Robin's like, not legally. He's like, good enough. He's like, take Joyce's car. Do not get pulled over. Get to Max. I'll stay with Will. So they leave. Mike goes in the other room, and Joyce is like sitting, nervously. Will's eyes are just like rolling back, like and forth under his lids. So the scene changes. We see Will's eyes open. There's like kind of like a bluish tint. He's stuck in one of Vecna's walls. He like struggles. And then we see Henry. He's like, you remember this place, William? He's like, no. He's like, does it bring back? He's like, no. And then he turns into Vecna now, memories. And he's like, Max, Holly, they got away, didn't they? He's like, did the legs slow you down? And he's like, you think you are clever, don't you? But remember, I am the one who invited you in. You were my vessel, my spy, my builder. And he's like, builder? And so this is what I was wondering about, and I felt like I missed something or just completely forgot something. But Vecna's like, how do you think the tunnels came to be, William? You built them each and every night you slept. There is much power within you. And he kind of like caresses his face. He's like, but make no mistake, boy. They are my powers, and they are stronger than ever before. So when we see him, he's like resting atop of his cave, like hung, like suspended up, like by the vine things, like holding him. He's like much stronger. There's like a pulsing like heart, something above him. He's like, now at least it is time for my vessels to lead us to a new world, a better world. And Will's like, too bad your world will never exist now that Max is one of your vessels. And Vecna's like, there are ways to smoke a fox from its den, William, and you are going to help me. You are going to be my spy one last time. He's like, no, never. The more you resist, the more it will hurt. And Will groans and screams. Holly's using like the spy scope to look in like the woods, and it gets grabbed out of her hands by Max. And she's like, what are you doing? Holly's like, seeing if he's still out there. And Max's like, he's not. And she's like, how do you know? And Max's like, because he knows he can't get us in here. Holly's like, he says that things have changed and there are other ways. And Max's like, yeah, and he's totally full of poop. He's like, you should know this by now. And Holly's like, so we're supposed to what? Just do nothing? Accept our fate? Max's like, we're not accepting poop. We're staying alive until we're rescued. And Holly's like, rescued by 11? And Max's like, mm-hmm. And she's like, how do you know that was even her? And Max's like, unless you know somebody else with psychic powers who's able to remotely infiltrate Vecna's mind, fight him off, communicate through him to tell us to run, then it had to be Elle, which means she'll be coming to save us. Now, can you please stop pacing? Seriously, you're starting to remind me of your brother. So she sits. And Holly's like, why can't Vecna come in here anyways? And Max's like, I don't know. Holly's like, you've had 2 years with nothing to do. You must have a theory. And if we're waiting, we might as well talk. So Max's like, this prison? And Holly's like, Camazotz? And Mac's like, sure. It's made up of Henry's memories, right? Including this cave. So I figure if it's like, I don't know, a memory that for whatever reason Henry doesn't want to face, something traumatic, except that there's nothing in here. So that is even remotely scary. Like, so maybe not. Anyways, that's my theory. And Holly's like, I like it. And she's like, thanks. And Max kind of like smirks. And Holly's like, and if you're right, maybe we can escape through this memory. And Mac's like, what? So Holly's like, okay, so my house, your attic, those were traumatic memories too. And they let us out of Camazotz. So maybe Henry's memories can too. Mac's like, first of all, there's nothing in here. As I said, secondly, our memories weren't simply traumatic. They were memories of the precise moment that Henry stole our minds. And he can't steal his own mind, can he? And Holly's like, how do you know? And she's like, because that makes no sense. Holly's like, and everything in this place makes sense? I mean, maybe there's like a secret passageway or something. Mac's like, oh, right, yes. I totally forgot about the secret passage. And then she looks out like the window. Holly's like, what about out there? Mac's like, sand, lots of sand. And Holly's like, you've searched it? Mac's like, yes. And Holly's like, all of it? Mac says, it goes on for miles. And Holly's like, so no. So she gets her cloak. Mac's like, you're not going out there, Holly. We are staying here, and we wait for 11. End of story. Holly's like, I don't think Henry was bluffing when he said that there's another way to get to you. We have to find a way out of here before that happens. She's like, you coming? Or are you just going to let a child head into the desert unsupervised? And she starts walking out. And Mac's like, I take it back. You don't remind me of your brother. You are your brother. And she follows. At the radio station, Mike looks out the window, asks Joyce if someone called a funeral home. So they go out. A hearse pulls up. Hopper and 11 get out. There's hugs. 11 introduces, this is Callie, my sister. Then Callie's like, this must be the famous Mike. And he's like, I don't understand. Hopper says it's a long story. It's probably best to tell it once. He's like, so where's the rest of the greeting party? So they take 11 in to see Will. And she's like, how long has he been like this? And Mike's like, a few hours. And Joyce asks if she thinks that she can find him. Dustin is back reading the journal. Steve asks if there's any clue about how long it takes a wormhole to collapse. And so it's like, wait, are neither concerned about Nancy or Jonathan up on the roof? Dustin says that he thought about it. He thought it would be instantaneous, but he guesses not. Steve's like, why do you sound disappointed? And Dustin's like, I'm not disappointed. And Steve's like, you sound disappointed. And Dustin's like, I'm confused. As far as I see it, there are two possibilities. Either this is the afterlife and you and I are spirits, which seems unlikely. And Steve's like, ooh. And Dustin's like, or Nancy didn't completely destroy the exotic matter, because if she did, the walls of the wormhole would have collapsed and we would have been sucked into oblivion. Steve's like, okay, so what are we waiting around here for? And he's like, well, where are you going? He's like, to see if I can get a damn signal to find Nancy. And Dustin's like, Steve, wait, we don't know if it's safe up there. And Dustin's like, you said the exotic matter wasn't destroyed. And Dustin's like, no, I said it's not completely destroyed, but it was very clearly disturbed. We have no idea what effect this may have on matter, space, time, gravity. This whole building could be very well highly unstable, physics-defying death trap. Steve's like, well, it seems pretty stable to me. And Steve tries radioing Nancy, and Jonathan's like, hello, are you there? And they notice the ceiling's gone, and there's red swirly energy up above them. And Steve's like, please tell me they're not up there. So Jonathan is woken up by the melty stuff dripping on his face, and he looks up and he sees the red above, and there's a tunnel of melted stuff. It's like, wait, they were on the roof, but now they're not on the roof. He sees Nancy lying there. He's like, no. He's like, Nancy, come on. She starts to wake up. Their backs are covered in the liquid melty stuff. Nancy asks what happened. He's like, I don't know. I guess we fell, and we also clearly didn't destroy it. Just pissed it off. And so she's like, let's get out of here. So they look around. They're in a conference room. So they fell a couple floors somehow. I don't know if just the whole roof fell. No, but there's nothing in the room. I don't understand. So they're in this big conference room. They can't find a door. Then Jonathan sees a doorknob because the walls are kind of melty. So they have to wade through some liquid melty stuff to get there. And then he reaches the doorknob. It crumbles in his hand. So he starts cursing, and then both start slamming into the door. Meanwhile, 11's sitting in a the studio. She has a blindfold on, big headphones, and Callie's like watching from outside. I don't trust her. It seems like there's something up with her, but maybe not. Maybe she's just been through a lot. Mike is surprised Nancy didn't leave a note or anything at the church, and Hopper's he's like, no, nothing. And he's like, they're either inconsiderate bleeps or they got captured by the military, but he's leaning on the first. Mike's like, well, what about the flesh wall? And Hopper says that he doesn't think they got sucked into it, but he doesn't really know. He's just confused as he is. He's like, the whole thing. He's like, Max, Holly, this wall, it's all got to connect somehow. It's like there was a missing piece of the puzzle. And Mike says that pieces are in Vecna's mind. And now they have finally a way to get in. So Callie comes in and she's like, except Jane hasn't found anything. She's struggling up there. And Hopper's like, oh yeah, maybe you should give her some time. And she's like, she's getting weaker, not stronger. And he's like, so you're the expert on Elle, huh? You've known her for what, a day and a half? And she's like, longer than you actually. We were raised together and her name is Jane. And he's like, Jane Hopper. And she's like, I'm just here to help. He's like, you're just here to help? Help? Well, I'm sorry. I'm all out of gratitude. I thought you said this fight was pointless. And Mike's like, you said this whole thing was pointless? She's like, I never said that. And Hopper's like, really? Sure as poop sounded to me like you did. It's like, I leave you alone for 2 seconds with Elle, and you worm your way into her head. She's probably having trouble finding Will because you've thrown her off track. And Callie's like, she was off track when I met her because of you, because of your lies. And he's like, everything I have done, and she's like, is to protect her. Keep telling yourself that. But if you really want to protect her, she needs to know the truth. She needs to know to be ready to deal with what's waiting for her on the other side of this. Killing Henry won't end this. And Mike's like, what the hell does that mean? Hopper's like, it means nothing. She's a child. She has no idea what she's talking about. And she's talking a bunch of nonsense. And Callie's like, I think you know that I'm not. But as you lied to Jane, you also lied to yourself. You ask why I'm still here? I'm here to make sure that this never happens again. And then the lights start flickering. Mike and Hopper run to Elle. So Mike goes in a room and she says she can't reach him. He keeps slipping away. And Mike's like, well, we have plenty of food here. He's like, you can eat, rest, recharge your battery, and we'll try again. Hopper's like, or we improve your signal. And she's like, the tank. He's like, yeah, it'll take a while to set up, but you got to recharge your battery anyways. Plus, the thing was a pain to build, so I'd like to get some use out of it. Lucas and Robin arrive at the hospital. They zip past the nurse's desk, and the nurse calls out to Robin, and then she's like, oh, she calls security because when they don't stop. At the elevator, Vicky stops Robin, and she's like, we need to talk. Lucas is confused, and Robin goes off with her. So Vicky pulls her into a room, and Robin's like, okay, you have every right to be pissed. And Vicky's like, they're looking for you, like security, MPs. And Robin's like, why? And she's like, you really want to play dumb with me? And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And Vicky's like, okay, let me give you a hint. You, Mr. Bailey's room, bentos. Does that ring a bell yet? And she's like, Robin, you got to start telling me what is going on with you right now. So I don't know how they would know that she did anything there. Lucas sits next to Max's bed. He says it's time to come home. He puts up running to that hill on the tape recorder. Out past the cave, Max says that she thinks that they've been at this long enough. Holly's like, we've searched an inch of this place. And Max is like, at last, you get my point. I've spent, I don't know how long searching out here, but too long. You're not going to just suddenly find something that I haven't, okay? And Holly's like, did my brother ever tell you about Uncle Eric? And she's like, Uncle Eric? And Holly's like, he's a metal detectorist. You know what that is? And she's like, he searches for metal. And she's like, yeah, with his metal detector. Looks for super old treasures and stuff that dead people have left in the ground. Anyways, it's his favorite place to search is Indiana Beach Amusement Park. He searched there for years, but all he ever found was a bunch of cheap trinkets. And one day, he opens up the newspaper and boom, front page, some random tourist found a tin can filled with gold and silver coins worth like millions of dollars. Max is like, right, so let me guess. In this scenario, I'm Uncle Eric. And Holly's like, and I'm the tourist. And she stops, takes out her spy scope. So there's like a weird cover over it, and it's almost like it looks like the shape of a cave window. And she notices it, and she takes it off, and she turns around, and she's like, M marks a spot. So she starts walking over it, and Max is like, where are you going? And she's like, I have an idea. She's like, I'll show you when we get closer. And she's like, Holly. And Holly's like, you said you want to go back. Well, we're going back. Steve radios as they're going up the like sticky stairs, and she's like, guys, if you can hear us, we're coming. I repeat, we're coming. And Dustin's like, Steve, slow down. It's like the higher we go, the more dangerous it gets. And Steve's like, all the more reason to speed up. Dustin's like, we're no use to him if we're dead. And then Steve like almost falls through his like a section of stairs collapse. Nancy and Jonathan are still like slamming into the door trying to get out. Nancy like sludges over to this overturned like wooden chair, and she says, a few floors down, it looks like one of the soldiers cut through that door. So she breaks a leg off, and she tells him watch out. She makes like a hole, and like liquid melty stuff starts like pouring in, and she's like poop poop. Then there's like a bubble of melty stuff like drops down from the ceiling, like off the side. Jonathan, he's like, get on the table. They climb up, and he yells. He's like, now what? He's like, but it's his idea to climb up it. Nancy looks at the huge stream coming down, starts yelling for help. Jonathan joins in. So that's their plan, just yell for help. It's like, who's going to help them? At Hopper Shack, they fill the tub and add salt or whatever. Joyce sits next to Will. They have him lying in the bed. Hopper tells them that they're almost ready, and Elle's going to fix this. And she's like, it was my idea for him to go in. She's like, I thought everything that happened, what I saw him do. It's like maybe this time he's, all this time I've been trying too hard to protect him. Like maybe I've been holding him back by not listening to him or trusting him. I thought maybe that if I believed and let go, somehow this could all work out. And it's like every choice that I make is wrong. And he says that she can be like him and be overprotective, but then they just resent you for all that. He's like, one of the joys of being a parent is a reminder that every choice you make is wrong, and it's not on her that this happened. So Elle has this like new like surf bodysuit, and Mike's like, oh, that looks good. He's like, did Murray get that for you? And she's like, yeah. And then Callie says something. He's like, Callie says something weird at the station about not being over even if we kill Henry. He's like, what she's talking about? And Callie's like listening from Elle's bedroom because she was getting changed. Elle's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And Mike's like, well, it does matter. Or if it doesn't matter, why was Hop so angry at her? And she's like, it's nothing really. And he's like, friends don't lie. She's like, I'm not lying. He's like, well, you're avoiding. That's a cheat. He's like, I just want to help. And she's like, you can't help, not with this. He's like, well, let me be the judge of that. She's like, there's a lab in the Upside Down. They're restarting Papa's program, trying to make new numbers. And Mike's like, the military? And she like nods. He's like, okay, after we kill Vecna, we destroy this new lab. End the program, like a side quest. And she's like, you don't understand. They don't need a lab to make new numbers. Henry's blood, it's in me. She's like, I'm not a monster. I know that now. But with me, with my blood, they can make more monsters. They can make more Henrys. And he's like, the military will always be looking for you, which is why we aren't staying at Hawkins. Like, when this is all over, we're leaving, escaping to some far-off land, remember? Where they can't find us, where there's at least one waterfall. And she's like, this isn't like one of your campaigns. You don't get to write the ending. Not this time. He's like, well, maybe, but maybe I don't. But we do. You, me, Lucas, Will, and Dustin, because this is our story. And it starts with getting Will back. So elsewhere, Will has like, bloody eyes. He sees flashes of movement through like trees, and then he sees like the old hospital. He whispers like, Max. And Vecna's, so he's going to use Will to find Max, his hospital room, right? Max is trudging after Holly. Holly takes out the spyglass, and Max is like, you realize you don't need that anymore. That's my cave. And Holly's like, yep. And she's like, oh, so the cap is still on. And she's like, yep. She's like, look, cap on. And she's like, it's very dark. So, but not totally. You see that cutout of light? It's the same shape as the cave entrance. It's like, what are the chances it cracks the same shape as the cave that we know Henry visited? So I think the cap is a map Henry made when he was young, a map that'll lead us to some kind of secret location. We just have to get the shapes to line up. Max like, and you think in this secret location we'll find what? Henry's traumatic memory? Holly's like, that and a way out of Camazotz. At least, that's my theory. So Max is like, I like it. And Holly's like, thanks. And Max like, there's one tiny hole in your theory, though. We're near the secret location, and I've got eyes, and I still see absolutely nothing but more GD sand. And then Holly starts to fall. There's like wood slats over like a mine shaft entrance. Max like manages to like dive and grabs her hand, and she pulls like Holly out. But there is a ladder on the side. So they carefully look down, and Holly's like, marks the spot. So Robin sits like on a hospital bed while Vicky like paces back and forth. So I guess she must have told her everything. So Robin asks her if she wants to maybe verbalize something because she got this look on her face. And she's like, I know it's a lot to absorb, especially in one go. And she's like, monsters in alternate dimensions, and I realized that the drugging of the Turnbows was a bit unethical. And Vicky's like, okay, stop, Robin, please, just stop. And Robin's like, I tried to tell you like a million times. She's like, no, you lied. Then you kept lying over and over and over again. So I knew something was wrong. And Robin's like, I know, I'm sorry. And Vicky's like, crazy day at work. Call you tomorrow. I mean, who works all night at a radio station? And who is stupid enough to believe that? Apparently me, sitting around a phone waiting for you to call while you're out with your friends getting high. And she's like, getting high? And Vicky's like, come on, Robin, you're going through withdrawals. And Robin's like, you have the wrong idea. I'm not on drugs. And Vicky's like, right, sorry. And she's like, just look at me. And Vicky's like, you have been busy with your friends hunting monsters. All right, maybe you even believe it yourself. With the amount that you were clearly on, if you just go cold turkey, it can cause confusion, paranoia, hallucinations. She's like, these are not hallucinations. And she's like, okay, let's recap. There is a dark wizard who is stealing children and putting them in a dream world. And Rob's like, Vicky, the earth has split in 4. The military has taken over our town. Is what I'm saying really so insane? And she's like, bad poop. She's like, you want to know what my face is communicating right now? And she's like, yes. And she's like, anger with a very reluctant dash of worry. As furious as I am with you right now, you are not well, Robin, and you need help. You need serious help. And then Robin hears something. There's a soldier out in the hall talking to a nurse, asking about Robin. And the nurse is like, oh, I just saw her go in that room right there. And she like slams the door. She's like, Vicky, I'm so sorry, but I have to go. And she's like, Robin. She goes out in the hall and she like walks away from the soldier. He starts following. He's like, hey, I'm talking to you. And she keeps going. And then another soldier cuts her off. So then the dork behind her calmly is like, where do you think you're going? Nancy and Jonathan are standing on a conference table shouting for help. Steve looks in a closet and he conveniently finds a ladder. Dustin's, he asks, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, that's never going to work. He's like, stop. So Steve puts a ladder over the hole, like in the stairs. And Dustin's like, you're going to fall. And then he like yanks him off. He's like, no, don't. Stop being an a-hole. And Steve's like, I'm not. I'm trying to get to them. And I like that he said them and not just Nancy. Because before he's like, I got to find Nancy. But so he included Jonathan, which is good. And Dustin's like, you always try to get yourself killed. And I can't let it happen again. Stop being so selfish, please. He's like, if you go on there, you're going to die. And I can't deal with it again. He's like, you can't die because I can't deal with it again. Don't let it happen again. Please don't let it happen again. And he like sinks his head into like Steve's shoulder, like in a hug. And Steve's like kind of caught off guard. And Dustin's like, not you. And he's like sobbing. He's like, I'm sorry. And while they hug, the ladder like falls because the hole is like melting more. And it just falls down several floors. And then they're both silent, like, holy crap. So obviously Dustin, he's dealing with what was his name? Eddie. That Eddie died. And he as much as he bickers with Steve, they were like buds. Jonathan and Nancy are still looking up, they're yelling for help. But it's like they're yelling up, but I thought they were down below. I don't know, maybe, who knows how far they fell, right? The table starts sinking at one side, so Nancy tells Jonathan to get lower in like a crouch, because she says sitting spreads their weight out. And she's like, Mr. Goldstein, physics. It buys themselves some time. They must have heard them by now. And Jonathan's like, well, why haven't they called back? It's like, even if they did, what could they even do? And she's like, something, anything. Then he looks at a chair, like getting drowned by the melty stuff. He takes off his jacket. And he's like, they're not coming. And she's like, don't say that. He's like, you wanted honesty. And she just looks around. She's like, I hate the Clash. And he's like, what? She's like, I hate the Clash. Every time you put them on, I just try to disassociate from reality. And he's like, yep. And he's like, I hate reading your articles. He's like, you don't actually want to hear my thoughts. You just want me to tell you that they're great. And she's like, because they are. And he's like, most of the time. And she's like, most of that, I go, wow, okay. And then she's like, I never read Slaughterhouse-Five. I just read the Cliff Notes and pretended I liked it. He's like, I never read Anna Karenina. He's like, I just read the Cliff Notes and pretended I liked it. And she's like, you are always exactly 6 minutes late. And I never say anything, but really, I want to punch a wall. And he's like, I took your pink sweater to Goodwill. She's like, what? I was looking for that. He's like, I hate pink, but I felt guilty afterwards if that makes you feel better. And she's like, I left a I flushed the last bag of Purple Palm Tree Delight down the toilet, and I didn't feel guilty about it later. He's like, come on. And she's like, I hate it when you're high. He's like, oh, I hate it when you're drunk. And she's like, I hate it most of all when you're high and I'm drunk. He's like, me too. And she's like, why do we do that? He's like, no idea. And then the melty liquid is like up to the tabletop. And then he's like, I never applied to Emerson. And she's like, I know. He's like, why didn't you ever say anything? And she's like, why didn't you? He's like, I'm not sure. I just felt like I was doing something wrong, like I was going against the natural order of things with what we've been through. It's just, she's like, you mean our shared trauma? He's like, yeah. It's like, how could anyone else possibly understand? It's like this thing that ties us together forever, you know? It made me feel safe, but also, I don't know. She's like, it can be suffocating. He's like, yeah. And she's like, that spring break when you were in Lenora, I didn't really have to stay behind to work. I could have had Fred cover for me, but I think that's why I stayed, that feeling that I needed space. And he's like, space to be with someone else? She's like, Steve is a good guy. He makes me laugh, and he has better hair than you, like way better. But no. It was not like that with him. We're just different people. And you know what he told me? He wants 6 kids. And Jonathan's like, 6 kids? And she's like, but my point is, he knows what he wants, and that's great, but I don't. And I guess I was hoping I'd have time to figure that out. But then Jonathan's like, the world split in 4. And she's like, and now, the melty stuff is like starting to come over the tabletop. And he's like, hey, one last confession, a big one. He takes out the John Coltrane cassette from his jacket, and she's kind of like surprised to see it. He's like, I figured I screwed up enough with you. It'd be nice to get something right for once in the end. He's like, here. She opens the case, and she sees a ring like under the like flap, like next to the cassette. And she pulls the ring out and looks at it. He's like, Nancy Wheeler, will you not marry me? He's like, I tried to convince myself that this would somehow fix everything, but it was just going to make things worse, which is why it's been sitting in my pocket like a cannonball for the last 2 days. And she like chuckles. And he's like, so what do you say? Do you accept my unproposal? And she's like, I accept your unproposal. And he's like, I loved you. I love you, Nancy Wheeler. And she's like, I love you, Jonathan Byers. And they put their heads together, and they're both crying. And then he takes the ring out of her hand. He kind of like tosses it over his shoulder, and it like ding, 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 against like the surface. But then Nancy looks at it. She touches the melty stuff next to the table, and it's solid. She's like, oh my God. She gets up, puts a foot on it, and they both start laughing. He lifts and like spins her, and they hug, and then the ring just sits on a hardened surface. So 11 gets in the tub. Callie just like glares with her arms crossed. Joyce takes Elle's hand. She's like, thank you. And Elle's like, I will find him. I'll bring him home. And Hopper like reminds her that, if she wants out, and then she knocks on the side. He shuts the lid. So Elle walks in like a low level of water. It's like all black in the background. There's a bed. Will's there. She sits next to him. She's like, Will, I'm here. I need you to show me where you are. Show me where you are. There's like some slithering noise. The tentacle things move towards the bed and like slither over Will. They cover him up, and like blood drips out of his eyes. And she stands back watching. Then the place turns like bluish or whatever, with the particles floating. So he's on the side of the wall or the pyre or whatever. And she puts her hands on his face. She's like, Will, can you hear me? Will, wake up. And she uses her powers to rip like some of the tentacles like off his neck, his wrist or whatever. And she frees him like completely. Meanwhile, Max and Holly, they reach the bottom of the ladder in the shaft. Holly has a flashlight, and she shines it down the tunnel. And Max is like, can I have that? So they see a pool of blood and like broken glasses. And Holly's like, do you think someone fell? And then you hear like a man panting. And Holly's like, it's just a memory, right? Nothing can hurt in here can hurt us. Max is like, nothing can hurt us. But it's like, you don't know for sure. So they move forward. They follow, like, there's, like, a blood trail, and you hear the panting continues. Max tells Holly, to stay behind her, and Holly's like, I thought you said, and she's like, I know what I said. This man's, like, moaning now. Then around a corner, they see a man with, like, a broken leg or something like that. He's sitting against a wall. He has this big, like, silver metal suitcase, and then he's like, how did you find me? And he holds up a gun. He's like, how did you find me? And Holly's like, he sees us? He sees us. How does he see us? Then from behind them, they hear a kid. He's like, I won't hurt you. Please, mister, don't shoot. So it's Henry as a kid. He's in his Scout's uniform, like he's holding a lantern. And so the guy's like, who are you? And he's like, Henry Creel. I live here, near here. And the man's like, who sent you? And little Henry's like, nobody sent me. And the man's like, they sent you. And Henry's like, I was in the caves. I heard a scream. The man's like, they sent you. And little Henry's like, you're just confused. You need a doctor. And then he like shot Henry in like his left hand. Henry just like stares at his hand, like, and the dude's like fumbles with the gun. I don't know if he's to see if there's more bullets or like that. Then Henry charges at him, grabs his wrist with the gun. They're both straining, and Henry's like, please, please. And then the gun's like getting closer to like Henry's face, and then he slams it down against a rock, and the guy like drops it. So Henry picks up another rock, slams it against the guy's head. And Max and Holly both like cry out in shock. And Henry continues, hit the guy with a rock like 5 or 6 times. And then Max pulls like Holly away, and they come to like a dead end. And Holly's like, I don't know, she's upset and shocked. Max starts like, it's okay. And she's like, why did that man try to hurt Henry? He was only trying to help. And Max like, I don't know. And she's like, is this what made Henry bad? And Max like, I don't know, but it's over now, okay? We have to keep moving. So Max starts like climbing over the rocks. Holly goes back to look at young Henry, and he's like bloody. He's kneeling at the guy's body. He drops a bloody rock, and then he's just like stares at the body. Max is trying to dig, and then she hears like Kate Bush playing in the distance. Henry grabs a suitcase, he opens it, some air hisses and smoke comes out. He opens it, but then Holly gets startled. Max is back. She's like, you were right. The way out of Camazotz is here. So we don't see what's in the suitcase. So they start digging at the rocks. In the hospital, Max's heart monitor is like beeping and accelerates, and Max looks at her. Vecna's voice like, you are going to spy on me for one last time. Will's screaming. He's getting buried by tendrils. There's visions of going down like the hospital hallway to Max's room. And he's like, found you. So Max, lying on her bed, he sees her. Will like wakes with a start, and he's still elsewhere, but in the bed. And Elle's like, it's okay. So he's like, she's like, I'm here. I'm here to bring you home. And Will's like, I tried to stop him, but I couldn't. He's like, he saw. And she's like, he saw what? What did he see? And Will's like, Max, he knows where she is now. And he sent them after her. They're coming for her in Hawkins. So she pops open the lid of the tub with a gas. And they're like, hey, what's going on? She climbs out. She goes in the bedroom and asks Will if he's all right. And he's sitting up. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, Vecna's going to kill Max. It's like, we have to get to the hospital right now. So 2 soldiers are escorting Robin out, they're each grabbing an arm. Vicky's like following. And she's like, hey, are you deaf or what? She's in withdrawal. And Robin like tries leaning back. She's like, I'm not. And Vicky's like, she needs to be in a hospital, not a prison. And she's like, oh, would you look at that? She is in a hospital. A dude's like, this is Hawk Candy Cane. It's not our first junkie. So then the lights start to flicker, and Robin like pulls away from them. And at the same time, Holly's mom, Karen, she sits up with the start in her bed, hospital bed. Officer dude's like, power outage in the hospital. It's like, can't be good for Granny, not our problem. The other dude like chuckles. It's like, okay, you guys are jerks. They grab Robin's arm, and Robin's like, it's like, no, we need to evacuate. The first guy's like, we don't need to do poop. Keep moving, junkie. She's like, I'm not a junkie. She's like, if we don't get everyone out of here right now, we're all gonna die. As they argue, Vicky like looks at a shadow coming around the corner, and then she sees a demo dog walking on all fours. So she screams and snarls at her. It charges. Vicky just like hugs the wall, and then the first soldier has his gun out to shoot. It jumps on top of him, knocks him back, starts like chomping on his face. Robin screams. You hear like flesh crunching or whatever. The second soldier, he starts shooting at it, and Robin grabs Vicky's hand, and they run like the opposite direction. So they go around a corner, and they keep running, and then they see another one and a third one come upstairs. So there's 2 of them are now headed at them from like both sides. So they both turn, but the demos turn and go up the stairs. Robin's like, they're not after us. And Vicky's like, huh, what? Robin's like, they're not after us. Do you know another way out? And she's like, the basement leads to the staff parking. So Robin picks up a phone and calls Max's room, hoping that Lucas will pick up. And Vicky hangs up the phone. And Robin's like, what are you doing? And Vicky's like, do those things understand English? And she's like, no. She's like, then this doesn't need to be private. And Robin's like, what? So Vicky turns on the intercom. So then Robin's like, Lucas, it's Robin. A demo's headed your way. He's like, do you hear me? A demo's headed your way. You need to get Max out of there now. And Holly's mom hears this too. Robin's like, take the elevator. We'll meet you on the stairwell. We'll meet you in the basement. And he like looks at Max. The door from the stairs busts open. A demo like runs down the hall and busts into the room. Max's bed is empty and it just roars. Lucas is running down the hall. He's carrying Max and the boombox is still playing music. Holly's mom yanks out her IV and Lucas goes to the elevator. He's like pressing the buttons. It opens. There's two demos like in the hallway, and a third one comes up, and they see him. They start charging for the elevator. He manages to kick it before he can enter the elevator, and then the doors close. Max tries squeezing through the boulders, like the opening, but she can't. She's like the rocks just won't budge. So Holly's able to get through, and then Holly like takes her hand from the other side, and like tries pulling her. Holly's mom staggers out of bed. She leans against the wall. And she sees some like oxygen tanks by the door. Lucas gets out of the elevator. He's still carrying Max, and then he runs around a corner and he like yells, but it's just Robin and Vicky. So they came from another direction, and he's like, they're coming. There's like a roar like in front of them. So they turn around. There's a roar the other way as well. So Lucas is like, how are they finding us? So they go through this other door, and they're in like this laundry area. The door at the other end is like locked. And then the first door that they shut is like starting to get dented, so the demos are like banging on it. They duck behind this big like row of like washers or whatever, and Lucas, he still has a boombox on, so they're not doing a great job of hiding. Vicky, and maybe, I don't remember if the demos just can't hear, but I don't know if that makes sense. Vicky whispers, she's like, I'm really sorry. I thought you were a druggie. And Robin's like, I'm sorry for lying to you for like a ludicrously extended period of time. And for the record, I wasn't lying about Enzo's. So if by some miracle we survive this, I'm going to take you there and we're going to get dessert. Deal? And they hold hands. So the door gets banged and then busts down. Two more like follow inside, so there's like three. Robin whispers, Lucas like, we have to turn the music off. He's like, we can't. Max is coming back. Robin like pleads. She's like, we have to. And he's like, she's coming back. And they look at her, but there's like no hint. Max is just like completely out of it. Meanwhile, Max is like stuck in the opening. Holly pulls. She finally gets like her upper torso through, and it's like red like on the other side. So they see like red wasteland, spiky rock formations, red clouds, and like lightning. And Max, so they're both standing there, and she's like, you ready to go home, tourist? And Holly smiles. She's like, yeah. So they walk out the opening. The demos growl, they like sniff, and like they're really calm now. They're just sniffing around calmly. They hop up on a row of washers or dryers or whatever they are. So the four, Robin, Vicky, Lucas, and Max, they're like crouch at the end. And so they can see there's like this big circular mirror there, conveniently. So they're almost on top of them. And then there's like kind of like a loud buzzing. So they go up to a dryer the demos go up to there's some metal thing and clunking around in a dryer. All four of them gather around it, which, again, very conveniently, there's a little O2 tank in there, and it like slows down so we can see it says oxygen flammable. And then it so it's turning in slow motion. There's a close-up shot of the temperature on the dryer thing. It's like hot. And then boom, huge blast of flames. Like it hits them head on. The kids like groan, look around the corner, and they see Karen Wheeler limping out. And I'm like, what? I was like, when did she get down there? And why would she put the oxygen in a dryer? So she must got there after them. And did she put it behind the demo's backs? And then how long does it take to heat up? I'm so confused at how this happened, because Lucas and Max got in the elevator before, she was still in her room. So she must have taken another, I don't know. Max and Holly continue walking through the puddles of the red wasteland. Then they see an opening, and Lucas is holding Max. So they stop and they stare instead of running. Max turns to Holly, and she's like, Holly, wait, you can't come with me. And this part, I didn't like this part. She's like, and Holly's like, what? She's like, what do you mean? And I was wondering about this, like, how is this going to work? This doesn't seem like Holly can get out this way, because Max is going to, her body. She's seeing a portal. She's seeing herself. But can Holly even go through there? And if Holly goes through there, it's like her body's not there for her to go through. So Max, like, this way leads to me, to my body, not yours. You have to find your own way. So it's basically like, tough luck, kid. Thanks for helping me get here. And then Holly, this was like breaking my heart, because I think having a daughter, whatever, when she was tiny, I couldn't imagine a little kid. She's like, how? She's like, I don't have Kate Bush. I don't even know who Kate Bush is. So she's like on the verge of tears, because Max is basically saying, I'm going to get out. You're going to be stuck here. You need to find your own way out, which is kind of horrible. But, she's doing her best to help her. She's like, you don't need Kate Bush to get out of here. It turns out I don't either. Music isn't the only way back. You just need something that connects you to the real world, to home, something powerful, meaningful. So I'm assuming maybe like her mom. Max is like Lucas, when he took my hand in the hospital, I could feel it, right here. But then I could also feel it in here, like her chest. And Holly's like, but I don't have a boyfriend. Which is so sad, she's just she doesn't know what's going on. And Max like, you don't need a boyfriend. You just need something that's special to you, something that makes you feel safe, something that brings you strength, something that gives you hope. And so then it's like, what, the Holly, the heroic necklace, because she touches it. And Max like, she's here with you now, but she's also with you in the real world. Wherever you are, all you have to do is follow her home. But it's like, where are the kids' bodies? And Holly's like, how? And Max like, just try and remember what it is that she means to you. And Holly's like, she doesn't mean anything important. She's just a toy. And Max like, if she's just a toy, why do you always carry her with you? And she's like, Mike, he said that she had divine powers and that she never gets scared. And so if I ever got scared, I could just become her. But I keep trying and it never works. No matter what I do, I'm still me, the girl who needs a stupid nightlight. It's like, when my mom was attacked, I couldn't save her. I couldn't even save myself. I just stood there. And when Henry attacked you, I stood there again. And there's nothing heroic about that. But she did yell at the demo or Henry or whatever to stop. Max like, there's nothing that you could have do in those moments. Holly, I mean, you're a wheeler. You're smart. You honestly think that you could have stopped those monsters with a fire poker? And I think that you're leaving a few important things out. The day we met, you went into the woods, even though Henry told you that dangerous monsters lived there. And then you followed me into the cave, even though you had no good reason to trust me. And then when I told you to go back to Henry, go back into danger, you didn't hesitate. And today, when I gave up, you didn't. It's like, I've been here for so long, Holly, so long, and I could never make it out. But you found a way through Camazotz. Because of you, I get to see my friends. I get to see Lucas. It's like, you saved me, Holly Wheeler. You saved me. So you see, Holly the heroic is not just a toy. She's you, Holly. She's you. And then Holly sees herself in a portal. And she's like, how did you know that would work? And Max is like, I didn't. He's like, you still have a long journey ahead. I don't know where you're going to wake up, but I figure Vecna's holding you in the upside down. But remember, the upside down is just like Hawkins. So find your way back to your house and hide there, and we will come and find you, okay? So Holly gives her a big hug, and then they smile at each other. So Mac's like, I'll see you on the other side. And Holly's like, on the other side. And they each walk to their portals. They're like walking, but then they start running. And I'm just like, this has got to be too good to be true, right? And then it's like black. And you hear a heartbeat monitor. And I'm like, wait, what? How can there be a heartbeat monitor? She's not connected to it. And that's where the episode ends. And that's where we're going to leave off for this week. So as I mentioned, I did start watching episode 7. I'm not that far into it, but I'm like, yeah. So I know a tiny bit what happens next, but yeah, that's going to be it for this week. As I've been saying, I'm getting more and more into it, and I don't know if it's just the final season, but I was always just okay with the show. I didn't love it. I wasn't like a diehard fan, but I'm really curious, and maybe just knowing that this is the end, it's like, okay, where is all this going to? There, because there were some, lots of good moments about this, but there's probably some seasons that weren't so great. So I'm really curious. Now, I don't know if some people are saying the ending is like Game of Thrones ending, but of course, there's always going to be people that aren't going to be happy about something. There are 2 more episodes left. I need to do whatever I can to avoid spoilers. And it hasn't been easy, but so far I've managed. But then maybe people will stop talking about it because everyone's talking about it like all at once, right? So two more episodes to go. Okay, and now the movie feature is Marty Supreme. So this is starring Timothée Chalamet and Gwyneth Paltrow and other people. And so here's a crazy thing. When this came out, I think it was it Christmas Day? Yeah. And I knew nothing about this. I did not know a thing about this. I didn't even realize it was an A24 movie until I went and saw it. I knew it was Timothée Chalamet. That's all I knew. I remember seeing like on Instagram, like Entertainment Weekly or someone posting like pictures of him kind of like wearing like a suit, like kind of like running down or walking down the street. I didn't know a single thing about it. I was like, okay, I think he's an amazing actor. So I guess I'll go see this because I am sure as heck not going to see Anaconda, which apparently is really bad. Yeah. And I think there's also Jack Black sings in it. Of course he does, right? So I went to see this movie. I had no idea what it's about. It takes place in like 1952 or something like that. Oh, what I found out just moments before, because I'm watching this. It's about like table tennis. So I just found out it's loosely inspired by the life and career of American table tennis player Marty Reisman. But he plays, his character's name is Marty Mauser. It's not like a direct, because as I'm watching this, I'm like, is this a true story or not? Or is this, just pure fiction? So I guess it's a mix of both. And basically, Timothée Chalamet plays like this really good table tennis. It's table tennis. What is it called? Table tennis. It's ping pong. They call it table tennis, really? I'm looking at it like on Wikipedia. He's playing ping pong. It starts off where he's a shoe salesman, but he's trying to get some money because he wants to go to the British Open, because then after that is like the world champion or something like that. But he needs money to get there, so he's working. I don't think it's his uncle, or maybe it's his uncle. And he needs money to, I think it is his uncle. He needs his uncle owes him like $700, and he's like, well, it's supposed to be his last day, and he's like, I need my money. It's like lunchtime. He's like, well, I'll square up when at the end of the shift. He's like, end of the shift. He's like, what are you talking about? And his uncle's like, well, if I pay you now, then you won't come back from lunch. So he goes and everything like that, and then when he comes back, his uncle's gone and everything. So he ends up getting the money through a certain way, and he goes and he plays and he's like really good. Then I won't give too much away because then there's going to be another championship, and then it comes down to a matter of like he needs the money to get there, and he does all this various different things while he's in London, wherever. He sees Gwyneth Paltrow, because she was like a former movie actress who kind of like retired, and they're not really sure why, and he's like kind of fascinated with her. He like tries like they're at the he finagles a way to get to to a fancy hotel rather than staying at a shared like bunks where all the players are, and he ends up calling her room, and he wants to meet with her and everything like that. And so that's where she like comes into it. He just like finagles his way, trying to do different things. And throughout the whole movie, it's like he's so, it's not that he's cocky, but he's just like, he's like, I'm the best player. It's like, and I'm going to change things and I'm going to do this. He doesn't have a way to make things happen. So he's just really relying like on fate and stuff to make things happen, because he'll tell friends or family, he's like, oh, I'll pay it back double or whatever. He's like, because this is gonna be big and all this stuff like that. It's just like he ends up having to come back to New York, come back home, and he's trying to figure out a way, because he needs money to get to Tokyo, and it's like all these like different hoops and stuff that he tries to do, and like some what do they call it when you sharp, no, not, what is it, hustle, that's it. He's like trying to figure out a way to hustle people to make more money, and it's just like things just get so out of hand, like things are so nuts, and it's just like it gets like worse and worse, and he's just like doing all this stuff because he's just so determined, and like in some ways like he doesn't even care about certain things. And I'm not even going to mention like the stuff with his girlfriend, and there's this whole story there, and then more stuff with his uncle, and he's just like determined to make that. And he has another run-in with Gwyneth Paltrow, and because Gwyneth Paltrow is actually married, and so there's just like all this stuff. And the movie itself, I mean, it's like weird. So it's all revolving, around, he wants to be like world champion table tennis, ping pong player. It just keeps going from there. He's just trying to finagle different ways and do all this stuff. And some things are kind of questionable what he does, and there's some dangers and stuff like that. But the movie itself, so it sounds kind of odd. It's like it's over 2 hours. It's like, I think it's like 2.5 hours long, and so here this is going to sound weird. It feels long, but not in a bad way, because as you're watching like each moment progress, and then the next moment, whatever, it just feels very long and in depth. But it's not like it drags on. I mean, I watched this movie at noon. It was like a 12:15 showing. For me, a lot of times I could be so into a movie, I start getting tired and drowsy. And that's because I don't sleep at night, which is another weird thing I haven't mentioned. So I mentioned a few weeks back, and maybe this is the time to mention. I should mention it at the beginning. But I mentioned how I hardly ever sleep. I don't know if one of you listeners, someone signed me up for like some sleep institute, something like that. I'm starting to get these emails from it. It's like, I'd never signed up for this. It's not like the podcast email that I've announced like long ago that I never use. It's another email, which isn't super hard to figure out what it could be. So it's like, I don't know. Because then I asked my wife, I was like, you didn't sign me up for this. And she's like, no. She like had no idea what I'm talking about. So someone signed me up for sleeping. So, but anyways, because I don't sleep well or enough, I 100% do not get enough sleep at night. A lot of times, like I'll be watching a movie and I'm like interested, I start getting drowsy, and then it's like a fight that like stay awake. And it's a lot of times where it's like you're still hearing it, then you're like, oh crap, my eyes are closed, but I'm still listening and everything. So that didn't happen at all. So for this being a long movie, I was awake the whole time, and I think that's a good thing. This is not like the typical podcast, what I quote unquote podcast movie. There's no, it's not a franchise, it's not like CG, it's not comic book, it's not fantasy or any of that stuff that I tend to gravitate more towards. This is like a legit movie. It is like a legit story, and I don't mean that as an insult to everything else that I like, because what I like, and how much I really love what I love, and I have deep respects for all that stuff. Respects. But this was like, this is a more traditional movie that probably like not even everyone would like that, because some people might find it a little boring because it's not like over the top action or anything, but there is suspense and everything like that, and there are funny moments, but it's kind of, this was just like a pure movie, and I don't know how else to describe that, but it's a compelling story, and you just want to see like how this is going to go, where this is going to go. And I will say, I've thought they were kind of leaning towards like this one element, like that the movie would end with this, and it's a possibility, but I don't know. They don't even touch on it, and I'm kind of, and after thinking about it, I'm kind of glad that they didn't end with that, because that probably would have taken away from because the final moment, I mean, without giving it away, I was just like, it's like, yep, that's so believable, right there. I mean, that changes everything, and I thought that was just a really great, powerful ending, and I don't want to give that away. So it's a really good movie. I say, let's see, Rotten Tomato, where's it at? Has this changed since I last looked at it? Critics, it went down a little bit. It's at a 94%. 94% of critics liked it. 83% of the audience that saw it liked it. One critic says the AARP, movies for grown-ups. I didn't even know that was a thing. Says they gave it a 3 out of 5. It's weighed down by a hefty 149-minute runtime, more suitable for apocalypse now. So maybe this is a movie for senior citizens. So maybe it's too long. Pop Culture Happy Hour says Timothée Chalamet is mesmerizing to watching this, which is an accomplishment because I'm not sure I care that much about the story, which is true. It's like, okay, this guy, he wants to be a ping pong champion. See, The New Republic, for all its similarities to the Safdie's previous works, Marty Supreme stands apart for its epic sweep and blockbuster aspirations. I forgot to mention like the critics stuff and the Rotten Tomato and the budget for The Housemaid last week, and I feel bad about that. I'm not going to do it now because it doesn't make any sense. Action is fast-paced, frenetic, and riveting. So those are audience. Critics, one person, Fred, long, boring, climactic scene, not climactic. Movie hype doesn't live up to expectations. Okay, so clearly this Fred cannot relate to the ending. So yeah, you don't get it, dude. Isaiah, really good movie. The ending didn't clear much up though. I think it did. So even though Isaiah didn't feel a cleared up thing, still gave it a 5 out of 5. Soph says, this movie has its flaws, blew my expectations out of the water. Timothée Chalamet, and blah, and it cuts off there. 5 out of 5. Barbara gave it a 3. Who cares, right? She gave it sorry, Barbara. She gave it 3.5. I thought this was a very disturbing movie. Might not be for all people. Timothée Chalamet gives an amazing performance. There are some things that are a little disturbing, just like the way things are handled and stuff. But it's a different time that doesn't excuse things. But yeah, so it is kind of a weird movie, and that's the thing, when you look at this guy, he's not the most likable person, but he's just like so into what he's doing. The budget was 60 to 70 million. On box office, I think is at a 32.3 million. Let's see, it made 875,000 opening weekend, given the per theater average of 145,993. The highest ever for A24 and best overall since La La Land. It was initially projected to gross 12 to 20 million. The film made 9.8 million on its first day wide release, which includes 2 million from Christmas Eve previews. It surpassed projections, finishing second over the 4-day Christmas weekend with 27.3 million. So there you go. I mean, go Timothée Chalamet. I mean, he's Timothée Chalamet. He's an amazing guy. Even though I'm still not super duper excited for Dune 3. I want to be. But that's pretty much it. Marty Supreme, it's definitely worth watching. It may not be for everyone. It might be too long for some, but it's just a powerful, great performances, and like I said, it's just a story. And I went into it completely blind, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, there you go. So you definitely should see it. I'm glad I did saw it. I'm glad, one, that it played at my theater and it played in the area. And two, I'm glad that there wasn't something else that came out like Anaconda that I would have gone to see and maybe not see this. Do you need to see it in a big screen? No, but it's really cool to see. Just, I'm always impressed with like period pieces and everything, just when they can transform the whole world, whether it's CG these days or not. I mean, because there's parts like, going down to the city block and, cars and just people and, outfits. And so I don't know if it's all, maybe there is CG these days, or maybe it's just all, they just blocked it off and did that. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out at some point in some form. I love seeing movies in theaters, so I think everything should be seen in theater. But it's not like you have to, but I do recommend it. So that is going to be it. That is, so where are we at in this thing? So Happy New Year. We are now 2026, right? Yeah, so it is now the new year. So this is the first podcast of the new year. So Happy New Year. Thanks for being here. Big thanks, as always, to Andrew Loken for being a big supporter. You can be a supporter too by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes podcast entertainment every single week. I do a lot of like look backs at classic comics. Been doing a lot of what if issues just because they're mixed and varied. I do off my mind topics, and lately I've been thinking more and more. It's like I could talk about this about Back to the Future. I could talk about. I don't know if people want to hear these other random nitpicks or theories or paradoxes or whatever with Back to the Future. But as I always say, if you got a topic, something you want to hear about, when do superheroes go to the bathroom or whatever, maybe you don't want to hear about that. I'm open for suggestions because I want that extra podcast to be what you want it to be. Like, what do you want to get out of it? But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. You can also purchase individual off of mine, past, Patreon podcasts by going to the patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Go to the shop tab. You can purchase individual episodes if you don't want to, pay for, whatever monthly on Patreon. And if you use the Patreon app, you're going to get charged an extra 30%, et cetera, et cetera. So now, beginning at the start of the year, what is going to be next week's movie feature? I really do not know what it's going to be because there's not a whole lot that happened. So let's see what else came out. I mean, there's Song Sung Blue, and which I think I said it was Neil Young. It's Neil Diamond, right? Or am I mixing that up again? So that's a Hugh Jackman, Kate Hudson. I'm curious to see that. I don't know if that needs to be seen in the theater. I mean, I'll probably see it at some point. I really, really, really want to see No Other Choice. I just don't want to go into the city to see it because it is not playing anywhere near me, I don't think. I mean, I should check the other theater because I really want to see that. Let's see, in opening this week, we have The Plague. I don't know what that is. The Plague, it says it expands. Everett Blunk and Joel Edgerton, independent film company. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard about that. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's going to play. And then this Friday, so Labyrinth is being re-released. All That's Left of You, Chronology of Water expands. Greenland 2, Migration. I saw the trailer for this. So this is what's this dude's name? Gerard Butler. When I saw the trailer, I was like, didn't he already do a movie like this? I never saw Greenland 1. And so this is, like asteroids or something smashing into Earth. Yeah. Is this thing on Primate? If anything, I think Primate looks like garbage, but I kind of want to see it. So I don't know I have no idea if my theater is gonna show that because it just does not look. So I don't know what the movie feature is gonna be next week. It'll be something, hopefully. Yeah, and then the following week we have 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. And then after that, I don't know, Silent Hill. So that's going to be it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for all your support. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope you remember, be good to each other.